there was a great
Hello,
boss
everybody.
game mode, I think.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Hello.
Hi, my name is Quest von Faustus. This is Simple Path. Welcome back. Session 24, the one where Karya gets a taste of what it's like to be king.
Yay!
Oh, I
But-
just can't wait to be king.
You call
Yes.
it kind of simple, but I think it's rather complicated.
Well, I've even said at this point we're actually not doing anything simple. We're on a road trip to Good Park to college.
It's a pretty
Yeah.
simple path if you all think about it. You're just headed in one direction.
We're the
Title drop.
Pathfinders.
Title card.
That's the reason I called it
Game
Simple
Ball
Walk
over
originally,
time.
is because you guys are just going on a trip.
In our favorite rocket ship, going
No.
through the sky. Little,
Little
Pathfinders.
Going through
Yeah.
the skies, we're gonna fucking
Going on
die.
a trip in our favorite fucking ship. Favorite piece of shit. Going 95, we're gonna fucking die. Anyway, hi everybody. So today
Everyone's excited.
it's okay.
Hello,
Chimko
hello, beloved one.
So yes, I believe we ended last session with everybody waking up, having breakfast, getting sorted, and then, well, the idea was to basically have a peep in on a day in the life of a king, the meeting, and while away the day elsewhere because you still have a night booked at this very swanky hotel, which was generously paid for out of the pockets of Hollow Hollow,
Hello.
your resident merchant prince, who is not really a merchant prince, but spends so little money compared to the rest of you, he may as well be.
He's an honorary merchant prince.
Honorary merchant prince.
Very,
Hola,
like-
hola.
No merchant, no prince, but all the money. Anyway, so
if it were a rich man.
the autonomy lies with all of you. How would you like to start the day?
Well, I already know where I'm going, so
Looks like you're going for a straight shot to the palace.
yeah, I had nowhere else to go. We met up with Mallory, and then and I believe Chico's with me.
Ah, yes, you were on your way and you met Malady.
Yes, Melody. I can hear you. I can hear you laugh.
Surely it's not
Sorry.
Hatchet. Also, now a hornless Mallory. Yes.
Yes.
I
Yes,
am
that.
not the elf. I am the last unicorn, looking for my kind.
Silence.
So, you are now
We tell 'em.
journeying with the last unicorn. Or not anymore, I guess.
My horn, where is it?
1 second. Very tempted to just upload an image into OBS of just a cross and put that over Mallory's horn.
I mean, you can.
Let's do that. So yes, your intention is to head to the palace. What about everybody else? Are you in an agreement? You have nothing better to do today? Sounds like it. Okay.
I assume so.
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah,
was
pretty
gonna
much.
say Holo is gonna go somewhere else because politics scare him anyway.
Surely it's not too much for the merchant prince.
No, it is too much.
You put that. Oh, I saw
Yeah.
I just saw the no, the cross, the circle cross
Mhm.
sign.
I love when
Beautiful,
people
but yeah, no,
upload images that look transparent but aren't actually transparent.
Yeah, evil in it.
Very much so.
I'm sorry about that. I have returned.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
My,
But if you want to go over what the other, oh sorry, go. Oh, sorry,
like-
Jill.
me Padre arrived in Texas, so that is what that was about.
Bill.
It's on, baby.
Oh, baby, okay?
Yeah, she's just saying "dad on" because she's trying to get me to turn on a toy that's already on.
I see. Sounds about right.
Also, forgive me, Mr. DM. I'm gaming in the background.
Dare
Playing
you.
Star Rail.
Me
Ew.
too.
Okay, now you're officially out of this campaign.
Both of you.
You can't
Into
kick
the
me
Shadow
out.
Realm.
You can't kick me out. I have a whole part of a continent that revolves around me.
Oh my
No,
God.
no, no, no. Your
Didn't you hear a
backstory
magical nuke?
inspired a continent.
Backstory expired.
I don't.
Oh, but
I
I'm
don't.
amused.
I don't require your further presence here to perpetuate that story. After all,
But I'm
Val-
amused.
you are amused,
You are
and you know that
It-
many artist stories end tragically.
But I'm amused.
And yes, I find it amusing that you think you're indispensable.
To the
But I
Shadow
am.
Realm.
Just like Shido.
Nah.
Nah.
I hear the demon in the background.
Listen, my child's just going through her demonic phase. She'll get over it.
You know what, fair.
Soon enough, she'll go waka waka, waka waka, waka waka.
Addy, say poggers.
No.
Don't do that. Only villains do that.
That's true.
Holy.
And rats.
Let's do that. Rats. Let's be,
Especially ones that run pizza places.
Addie should go beep beep. Let's go beep beep like a mouse. Let's go
Okay,
beep.
so what, before we get distracted, what are we doing then?
Sounds to me like you guys met up on the way to the palace and are headed there.
And I'm currently with my funny mask on, following Karia.
yes.
And I am staying good a ways back, but still keeping an eye.
Mhm. If you're spotted, you are Karia's suitor.
Hey, no.
Listen, that's
I
all we
can't.
gotta do.
Wow, one session that
Already trying to turn everybody into your harem. Jesus Christ, man. Some
I
dignity.
literally, I have my advisor, but if they get caught, that's all it takes.
Ah, yes, my lord. I'm sorry. This
Who's
this
your-
this waif came uninvited. She is my concubine, you see.
Mallory then weighs the importance of his covert identity versus the urge to just destroy everyone who witnessed that.
Let's see. Keeping my cool or murderous rampage. Tough decision.
Hmm. Yes.
Difficult
have a,
decision, yes. Yeah.
We have a secret service organization. You see, they are just running reconnaissance for us.
Hmm. Yes, so it doesn't take long. It takes about 10-15 minutes before you guys get to the gates of the palace once more. It's like before, only this time rather than being lit in the evening light, it is now the early morning sun. He glances off the brass of the palace gates. The clean white marble of the building shines and mimics. Oh, it's not mimics. What do you call it? Reflects that of the rest of the city. It is smooth. The architecture is clean with some looping decorations and filigree on it. Overall, it keeps that consistent architectural theme of smooth curves and a neat outer appearance. Coming inside, at the gates, as before, there are guards. Different ones this time, as they are seemingly they have been rotated out since. This early in the morning, there are a good many more people in the palace. It seems like there are, especially even this early in the morning, there are already petitioners coming to come see the various ministers and perhaps even the king. You see people of all walks of life striding up to and waiting by the front door of the palace. There's a guard up on the front steps with a checklist that he is ticking through, asking questions to the wider crowd, and also occasionally coming face to face with an individual petitioner. They seem to be going through some basic questions, noting something on the clipboard, and then moving on to the next one. But overall, you see people of all kinds. You see young women. You see men, middle-aged men, even a couple elderly folks. You see what look to be grizzled veterans. So hi, Ari, how you doing? I'm glad you almost forgot. You didn't forget. Welcome in. So yes, you see elderly petitioners. You see what look to be soldiers, millers, nobles, all rubbing shoulders, all waiting in line to petition local government. All around, not in an oppressive sense, but there are guards that form a loose half circle, or semicircle, that serve to keep a sort of buffer between the people and the palace main building. And as before, there are people coming to and fro, but not as thick as before, to the left and right annex buildings, which you previously have been told were a library and a barracks. So yes. So you have a mix of some nobles and merchants who seem to be dressed finer, and then there are the less well-to-do, dressed in more humble attire, but they all seem to be mixed in an equal measure, shoulder to shoulder. And then you have the contrasting, darkly garbed and semi-armored guards who are making sure to keep a barrier between the people and the palace, and letting in every once in a while somebody after they questioning with the guard finishes and he motions them through.
Anything of note come up in these questions, or it's just a usual standard day?
Well, it's mostly the questions you were asked upon entering. Who are you? What are your intentions here at the palace and within the city of Lorbany and within the country of Lorbus as a whole? Do you have any grievances? Are there any things that you would... what is your opinion of the capital and of the country? What would you improve? Among various other things. And also, as you can also tell that there is something of a pat down that happens before people pass through. But it's nothing terribly invasive.
Huh. I see.
Yeah. Like even like, to be fair, even like the what do you call it, one of the young girls that is let through, is, you would assume, has to be something like 14, 15, accompanied by her mother. They do get a careful pat down, but clearly they avoid getting too handsy with the visitors. But even the young girl isn't given an exception when it comes to checking for things like potential weapons.
I don't really think that they checked us like this, which is funny because
They
we showed
didn't.
up.
Because you came at off
showed up-
hours and you weren't given near the same amount of suspicion, which could potentially be seen as weird.
Well, it is definitely weird. A band of like 7 fully armed adventurers were told, "Don't pull that out," and then let in to talk to the king
Mhm.
at night, no less.
Mhm.
This man's gonna die.
Well, Karya, if there's any moment to usurp a country, this is it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's when we discovered that the King of Lorbany is actually, or rather, the King of Lorbus is actually a 15th level druid and obliterates me.
Oh no,
That's
if he
true.
would be anything, he wouldn't be a druid. But
He would
anyway.
be an inquisitor, like
A
me,
wizard.
a natural
Hmm.
leader.
Hmm. You can think that. Anyway. So yeah, nothing particularly stands out. It's pretty much the same suite of questions you were asked upon entering. Though for some of them, especially for some of the merchants, you would assume, or the nobles, there are some more in-depth questions that usually have to do with things like, you would assume things. It kind of comes like as jumble to your ears. Everybody except for Mallory, I would assume. It's things about it's about taxes and dividends and tributes and projects that they're looking to finance or issues they're looking to bring to the king's attention. Things are a little more on the advanced end of things rather than just like just where with the girl and her mother, it was they were looking to ask a question or raise an issue or inquire with the king about something potentially. So one is a visit, one is business. So yeah. Overall, though, the temperament of the crowd gathered around in front of the palace is a calm one. It's patient. People are. The line doesn't stand stock still for too long. It moves along rather smoothly. Are you going to get in one?
Well, wait, me? No, I was standing next to him. I had already done my bit. I was actually told to stand there near the king, because it would make his advisor.
You're not in the
stressed.
palace yet, though.
Yeah, we're not in the palace yet. We're
Oh,
outside.
my apologies. I got confused. I don't know why for some reason I thought they had like a.
Yeah.
Kari
This
uses
is-
You are still
This is where you
outside the
walk
building,
to
my
the
friend.
Yep.
Just
Yeah,
Kari
walk
uses console
inside.
commands to teleport to the king.
yeah, I'm gonna use console commit. Yeah, no, I'm gonna get.
There is
mine,
no
may as
there's
well.
no QA smoke in this game.
Damn it.
Damn it.
I'm gonna
I
clip
get-
through the wall.
I get behind Karya, and as he gets in line,
I shall also get in line with the others.
I can just assume that you're all gonna line up.
Yep.
It doesn't take too long. It's not short by any means, just by dint of how many people are showing up to petition the local government. So it's a good 10-15 minutes before eventually you manage to get to the front. And of course, there's also the trickle of people coming back out. Some look pensive, some look distraught, some look overjoyed. That girl with her mother comes back out. She's looking a bit downcast, unfortunately. The mother looks like she's consoling her daughter and patting her on the shoulder.
Oh.
uh-oh.
It's unfortunate, but let it be how it be. But eventually, the line moves along. You get to the guards who motion for you to wait for a moment. The guard with the clipboard seems to be looking back through the doorway for something, and then seeing whatever he was looking for, then looks down and motions down to you guys to come up the steps and speak to him.
I suppose we will. I have nothing to not.
Yep.
Pretty much.
Good morning, citizens.
Greetings. We are here to speak with the king, or rather, observe the court.
He looks up at you with a look of momentary confusion. He goes, I'm very sorry, but are you a minister? Are you...
What would my type? I am.
Do you
Yes.
bring-
Do you have an official place. I don't believe. I think I would recognize you. I don't think you have an official place within the Lorwis government, which leads me to believe that I can immediately believe that you are permitted to come sit in on a meeting of national importance.
Oh well, no. Chaiko. I will allow you to speak to my advisor. Looks to Chaiko.
Please do not call me your advisor. Anyways, looks to the
we're
person
supposed to call you.
in charge.
I almost thought you were some
that.
sort of foreign dignitary for a moment. Thank you for the correction.
Yesterday, me and my companions have arrived here, and we talked to the king yesterday. My big friend here, point Sakaria, has asked yesterday, specifically, that he wished to shadow the king to see what he does, because my friend here wishes to, be a king himself one day upon lands he wished to gain, or in lands he has been scouting. Oh boy, this asks me to roll bluff. God damn.
No, you're speaking the truth.
Bluff. It is.
It is, by all counts, the truth.
Sincerity.
I would ask, sense motive.
For me?
Yeah, from you, and potentially Karia.
Oh boy. Finally, something that I should be good at.
I will attempt to. Let's see.
Dirty 20.
Nice.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would attempt to help, but I don't think I can actually get.
Oh
any
no,
better
there
than
there would be no assistance in this. This would just be determining how you read him.
that. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. You said a sense motive, correct?
Yep.
I'm not too good at that, but sure.
So we're all here. We're all in front of the castle.
Basically, except I suppose Hollow who said that politics scare him. So,
I
Karia,
was actually gonna say where I was actually gonna say where Halal was wanting to go, but I was gonna let you finish this first.
So Karia, yep, the guard just kind of listens to Chaiko and seems to, or Chi in this case, seems to take it in and goes, I see, I understand. Chi, from your perspective, you see the guard's face screw up for a moment, and the way his helmet somewhat occludes his facial expression might lead you to think he has a neutral expression, but you see the way his brow creases as he looks at Karia. You see that he's kind of looking at Karia the same way you would to look at a delusional beggar. And the I see is more of a tone of I see, poor boy.
Like, what do you mean, like, poor boy? Like
the inflection of his voice seems more like it's less like a I see, and more like a I see. More of a sort of pity-some response, as if like, oh, I see, you're humoring this poor delusional boy. I see. King aspirant. Very good. Good to learn from, then another delusional king. I see. No, he doesn't actually say that. But
Hey.
Wow.
who better to learn from than a king so idealistic as our own? Very good. Well, there was talk among the scullery staff of a meeting with the king last night. I think I remember that. If that was all of you, that would explain some things. Now, I hate to say it, but it's not outside the realm of possibility for our king to be inviting unknown figures to come sit in on meetings of state. And while that's normally against protocol, I shall at the very least inquire to see whether or not that's the case. As he then gestures to another guard and says, he whispers something to him. The other guard nods and marches off into the doorway.
thank you for at least checking the validity of our statements.
It's the least
And
I can do.
wise to
As captain of the guard, it is part of my due diligence to make sure that His Majesty is always as safe as humanly possible, despite his other efforts.
I like to say, how do I say this? And I am completely understanding upon which, in the situation you are in.
Thank you. Your understanding is appreciated and makes this just a bit smoother. Yeah. I have no means or reason otherwise, despite some potential cause for suspicion, to deny you an audience or questioning with the king. However, that he is currently in his morning briefing with the ministers, which, if your claim is true, is an ideal time to watch. If it's not, then I will have to ask you to wait until, wait like others until the king is free to speak in his for his morning audiences that he holds. To which he then says, "If you can all just stand to the side for a moment until Sir Bradley comes back, and then I will pass the verdict." He motions for you guys to take a step aside so he can handle other applicants.
Of course.
I happily sit to the side.
Assuming you all just kind of take a step to the side, he
Of course.
continues processing more people until eventually 2-3 minutes pass, and then the same man, presumably Sir Bradley, comes outside, very calmly taking his stride, long clanking strides down the step until he gets up to the captain of the guard's ear, whispers something, and steps off back to the side, resuming his post. And the captain of the guard notes something on his clipboard, steps over to you as a group, and says, "Well, as far as it may beggar belief, as it turns out, you do have an outstanding invitation from the king to visit him. So, all I'm going to have to ask is that you all stand and allow yourselves to be inspected. I can see that most of you are already. Normally, it's polite to leave such weapons at home before coming to the residence of a figure of royalty. Perhaps something to keep in mind for the next visit."
Thank you very much. I will keep that in mind and have that in. I will. Thank you. I will keep that in mind and will use that for future reference.
For the time being, keep your weapons sheathed, keep them away. It would even overjoy me if you were to leave them at the door and reclaim them on your way out. But seeing as you have an express invitation from the king, I cannot force you to do so.
I will look towards the gang and say, and essentially give them a look of, what are you gonna do?
I'm leaving my weapon with me.
Understandable. Expecting that from you. Others?
I'll be carrying mine as well.
And then, who else is with me? With us? Because I know technically Mallory. was
Bark
here
and
on-
Mallory. Actually, no, Mallory's falling behind.
How well is that going for Mallory?
I don't know. Mallory, I guess, since he/she's keeping their distance at the moment, is further back in the crowd, not quite in line yet. Or is like halfway through the line at this point, if Mallory's intending to get into the palace.
Did Mallory tell us what they were planning to do? Or did Mallory just do this on their own whim?
But yeah,
Well, he did say prior that he was just gonna follow them and make sure that nobody's tailing them at some point.
does Mallory intend to enter the castle, or does he intend to just loiter around outside until such a time as they come back out?
Oh, he has full intention of entering the castle. There is information that he would otherwise not be privy to in there.
Okay. You'd be about halfway
And
through the
would-
line at
would-
this point then.
And then, would you tell us this, or would you keep that to yourself?
Well, he would probably tell you that he's going in the castle as well, since information is important. Sharing information is important in these situations. But he
so
won't tell you what for.
Okay, so we are privy to the knowledge that you want to enter. Are we privy?
Yes.
Do I see Mallory in the line?
I mean, yes, you would recognize Mallory's disguise. The lack, yeah, like if it weren't for the lack of horn would have thrown you off otherwise. But seeing as you saw Melody before coming here, you at least can keep an eye out for the thin, androgynous, long-haired features of Melody, sans horn, and dressed in the sleek gown that he has on.
Okay, I will approach the guard, and I will say, I'll let out a sigh and go. Do you see that one on the line? Long hair, long blonde hair, and the gown.
It's the flaxen blonde one.
Yes, unfortunately they're part of our group. And unfortunately, they think that they're being sneaky. If they try to get in, let us know they're with our group. Can't. I'm sorry you have to do this.
I'm sorry, you saying that someone is attempting to sneak into the palace?
They think they're sneaking from us.
I already tell your group is going to be a headache.
I'm very sorry. I'm trying to keep these compatriots of mine reined in.
Mhm.
But as a group of people who are not originally together from the start, it's hard to keep everyone under control.
Just kind of like you can see the leather-clad glove coming up to his nose, pinching the bridge, and you just hear a deep.
You can, as he does that, she also puts her hands on her temples, even though she has a mask on, and starts rubbing those areas as well, rubbing her temples. And
I want you to
Very
understand
sorry.
a large man with a big sword, a golden-haired, I can only assume, I have to assume, is a spy, a catfolk in a cloak, a silent, dusky-skinned, silver-haired stranger, and a woman with a mask come into the royal palace, and it is taking all of my self-control right now to not fall back on wartime instincts and just have you all arrested. Because by all rights, the simple words "sneaking in" should warrant an interrogation.
Yeah, great.
that's
great
why
word.
I clarified myself, sneaking from us,
Which
Sneaking-
makes no
Mm.
sense. You must understand the word, the in the context of this, sneaking from you, despite the fact that you somehow know, and this somehow has something to do with your trip to our palace, makes no sense.
I will not deny you that. I will not deny you that.
So I'd rather not hold up the line. We try to keep things smooth, but clarify before I have to have her arrested, brought here, and interrogated.
Mallory will remember that if that happened.
It does raise the question why someone would be sneaking away from our party.
It makes the difference of me then having to divert you away from your meeting with the king and sit you in a cell and ask you politely what you're doing here today, and her potentially spending the rest of the day, perhaps even the next week, in a cell. Please, make this easy for all of us.
Okay, so
Please tell me
out
it's
of
an
character.
innocent misunderstanding, because I'd really just rather not devolve into an arrest.
Okay, out of question. Out of character. And out of question. Out of character. Specifically, they're asking. I want to make sure. I want to make sure this is what I'm understanding.
What they're asking, what do you
me-
mean when saying she is sneaking from you.
Okay. So, what I will say is, how do I want to say this? Because, I now realize the situation I've put myself in.
I mean, if you
I mean, worst comes to worst, I
I'm
can
sorry.
always have Karya be blunt about it that someone is hunting one of our friends and we
no
need
no
to
no no
make
no
sure
no
that
I
there's
can
Do
probably
not-
salvage this. I can probably salvage this if when they come.
I'm just gonna. What I'll do is, I'll just call over. I think the best course of action is calling over Malady, not vocally, but looking towards the line, looking specifically at Malady, and waving them over.
Malady, you're being waved to by Chi. She's gesturing you over. This is a bunch of eyes turned to you. First people like point. A few people point to themselves. Then some people look back to each other, and then they see kind of where the mask is pointing, and so it's just loosely in the area you're in. And so there's kind of like eyes being cast about.
Malady would initially first look around. You know, not obviously turning her head to his head. Her head.
My head.
My head. Her head.
It's
Not just like glancing from side to side, just to make sure.
Mhm.
And seeing as Chaiko, someone she recognizes, obviously pointing her out. Ever so slightly, her eyebrows furrowed, just in a slight. Okay, you really why? And okay, and then very poised, quietly walked toward the group.
Okay. The captain of the guard motions to let her through. We have questions. Guards don't impede you as you come up the steps to join the rest of the group.
I'll say,
I have some questions for you, young woman. Your friend here, as far as I can assume, claims that you are for some reason sneaking from, I can only assume that means sneaking behind or tailing your friends, your coterie here. Why? Before I have you arrested on suspicion of being a spy in the royal capital.
You said I was spying on them?
No, didn't say you were spying. But as captain of the guard is one of the only rational assumptions I can make with so little context. So please, for all of our sake, clarify.
I am not someone who follows people around, if that's something you're suggesting.
To start,
I've simply come here to learn up on the situations of the world, particularly the Duchess of Naissance, or whatever they're called now.
I see. And are you familiar with this young lady and the rest of this group here?
Not by any familiar means, but I am familiar with the Lady in the Mask. We've never quite seen eye to eye.
I see. She claims that you were for some reason sneaking behind or tailing the group. And if you're not familiar with the rest of the group, but only this individual, I can only assume if what you say is true, that you are not supposedly following them for amiable reasons. And if you are fully a fast one on me, my only suggestion is next time get your story straight, because this is looking more suspicious now. So either come clean with me, or if you already are, perhaps be a bit more convincing. At this point, I'm going to start needing either bluff or diplomacy rolls. Because the captain of the guard is becoming increasingly vexed with the situation.
Oh yeah, I'm also getting mad. I just wanted to go and hang out, so I
Flick is also looking rather irritated at this
kerfuckle.
kerfuckle. Yeah, thank you. I was trying to find the word.
He's
Va-
the way he puts it is.
Varg is off.
Good.
Varg is off to the side reading the biography of Lilia. Just
Fair enough.
So he says, someone better start telling the truth right now, or your stories better start matching up, because right now there's a big inconsistency, and I'm very much at the point of being very close to just saying nobody here is allowed into the palace.
Which one of us wants to go first?
So,
I
Okay.
will.
Thank you.
hold on. Out of character, who is he asking? Is he asking Mallory or the
He's
group?
asking you, you and Mallory, you two specifically, because you two are the center points of this little misunderstanding.
Okay.
Saying someone better start telling the truth and being upfront, or better start making sense, because nothing matches up in his mind at the moment.
I'm going to step forward at this point. I
Okay.
Karia is getting increasingly irritated. He'll step forward and go, "This is taking far much more time than I intended it to."
You and me both. So you have some testimony to offer, sir?
I'm tired of the games, and I am tired of wicking around and mincing our words. A friend of ours has been recently besieged by an attack and claimed that they were being hunted, or rather, he was being hunted by them. Because of this reason, we have been very and increasingly wary, and we have had some of our members of our crew stay on the outskirts to make sure that everything would be okay, or at the very least, if something were to happen, it
He
wouldn't
starts
be alone.
jotting something down onto the clipboard and says, and for the sake of safety and anonymity, do you not wish to name this friend of yours?
Simply for the sake of anonymity, yes, as they
Okay.
were posing as
Understandable.
they were posing as members of your guard and your court. Now, when they besieged us,
One moment. He holds up the pen he's using, notes something. He says, were they dressed in our uniforms? Were they similar to what we're wearing right now? He points.
I believe that they were close, but they were different, if I remember correctly.
Yes,
Yeah, a little bit. Yes.
Actually, yeah, no, I believe it was.
They were outdated.
Not outdated,
No,
but they weren't of they weren't quite of the same quality, and the insignia on it was different, mismatching. Was it? Who was it
From
that
what I
noticed that?
remember. Oh.
Yeah, it was a while back. I can't remember for sure.
Yeah.
I
I
think
don't
Flick
think-
that
I
recognized that.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Addy.
Yeah. I believe that was the case, wasn't it?
I think so. But yes, so it's like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. There are plenty. I think I specifically noted a few inconsistencies with the armor.
Excellent. Okay, in that case, the guest claim assaulted by officers. Criminals claiming to, or assailants claiming to be officers of the law, dressed in forged and falsified uniforms, potential bandits and/or sabotage. Looking to put the reputation of the kingdom in peril, potentially. Then it goes. Then motions to you, Kari, and says, "Please continue."
On top of that, they had forged and falsified documents. When we arrived, we weren't sure who to trust. Nor do we still.
Did it have the royal seal on it? Did you recognize if they had that?
They did, yeah.
It looked like it.
You said
If I
you
recall
recognized that
correctly.
you said that you recognized that the uniforms were mismatched, but noted no inconsistency with the document.
It was a very convincing forgery. By now, Mallory would have like both faces covering his, both hands covering his face, just like oh.
Okay.
For all intents and purposes, the royal seal may very well have been counterfeit.
It's quite possible as well. They may have either stolen a badge, or they stolen a scroll of certification, or they may have a very skilled forger in their employ. Either way, that is worrisome. As you, it's like,
Quite so.
I'm going to roll something really quickly for him. Okay. Right then. And it's for this reason that you've had more or less people, you've had several members of your group, in this case, the young lady here, tailing your group to make sure that no further assailants were following you. This is the reason that you had someone, quote, sneaking after you.
Yes, sneaking after was a poor choice of words by my advisor. I should have
Exceedingly
been
so.
upfront.
Please be careful about that when speaking to the captain of a security detail.
Yes, I apologize for the actions of my court. However, the better term, at the very least, was scouting. Not necessarily sneaking, but they're keeping watch until we can confirm that the threat does not reside within the capital. However,
Running security, essentially.
Your
running
suspicion
security.
and, while potentially a bit paranoid, your security and your worries are warranted. If there are bandits riding under a fallacious banner, one that would belong to the royal, not to the royal guard, but to Lorbus's guards, your suspicion of constabulary here within the capital would make sense. So I understand your caginess. However, it did you no favors on my initial suspicions. I will report this. As a matter of fact, being the captain of the guard, I can bring this to the immediate attention of the rest of the guard by the end of today. We will keep a level eye out for any falsified uniforms and potential masqueraders on the road. Where did you say this happened?
It was the
You
Eastern,
We,
correct?
we didn't say correct. We didn't actually say that bit, if I recall.
No,
Yeah,
But
it was,
you didn't actually. He's asking where it happened.
I don't remember which road we came on.
It was
it
a
was
bit westward, wasn't it?
Yeah, a bit westward,
out of
more southward.
out of
About
character.
bit
It was
west southwest.
See, okay. That sounds like the main road. That's very.
It was.
Indeed.
It's uncharacteristic. Most bandits stay away from the main road. Too much guard.
Well, they clearly had an organized operation, and though I was
Clearly.
curious, I scared them off. I
Probably for
hope-
the better. By all means, this suggests that they have a confidence in their ability to operate, which suggests a larger or more powerful organization and a rock-solid command structure. And if they can afford a forger that's skilled to forge a royal seal, that means they are also very well funded.
Yes. All I would say is I apologize for the delay. Subterfuge and general skullduggery is not normally within my realm of understanding, but what I do know is that at the very least, we needed to make sure that your kingdom, at least the man at the helm, was not responsible for whom was hunting our compatriot. We have not brought them along today simply for that reason, but
I could say right now that you and my king have one thing in common, and that is you are infuriatingly straightforward and blunt. I don't think my king has it in him to make that sort of scheme. That's more his advisor's wheelhouse. If you weren't such a busy man, I'd almost suggest perhaps getting a lesson from him. At least your friends here might benefit from a lesson from him in how to frame your language better. Okay. He taps the pen against the clipboard, ties it to the board with a piece of string, and says, "My best estimation, I find no reason to hold you in arrest or contempt. Said in short, I believe you for now. Please do not give me a reason to rescind that judgment.
Precisely.
You are all permitted to pass within the walls of the palace. Please act with respect and dignity. Keep your voice below a certain level. And please, for the love of God, just looks at the giant sword on Karia's back. It's like, please.
I had no intention.
The
unless there was a
ministers, the ministers startle easily.
Oh, yes. In fact, that's the purpose of my visit today. The king and I both agreed that it would be humorous to watch the advisors panic.
Of course he did. It's not like the minister of minister of finance is one day away from having a conniption into his grave. All right then, you all free to go. We've held up the line for long enough. I pray that we don't have any further incidents like this. And he turns to the group and says, points to Malady. It's not you. Points to Karia. Not you. Points to points to Flick. Maybe. And then to Chi. Possibly. But then looks to Vark and says, but you said nothing during this entire engagement. Also, Dizzy, thank you very much for the self-care.
Thank you, Dizzy.
It points to Vark and goes, whatever you're dealing with, not something small. At the very least, it's not something to be underestimated. So I understand your caution. Be careful. Keep up these safety routines. Never be alone in a back alley or in the dark.
Thank you for your advice.
Comes with
Appreciate
instinct
the
and
advice.
comes with seniority and spending a long time treading cobblestone paths in the deep dark. Just saying, not the deep dark. Treading the cobblestone roads of the urban sprawl. I've worked the beat here in the city for a long time. I've had my fair share of dealings with organized crime. Anyway, gestures to the door. Free to go. Darken our doorstep no longer. Go on.
Thank you,
See,
sir.
all we had to do was be upfront. See, it was fine.
Flick's
Yeah,
going to very
I know.
quietly say to Karia, he does have a point, though. You are brutally honest.
I've been told to be,
He
at the very least.
He is, and I gotta learn to do that too. I mince my words.
You're fine, Chi. It took me quite some time to learn to speak for myself. In truth, when I first left the nest, I was a scared and bumbling fool with an egg in a backpack. But it all comes with time.
Now, real quick, I'm going to say this because this is important. When the guard, I asked this to the GM. When the guard was saying, "Be careful this, be careful that, don't tread in the night," was that specifically at Vark or the group?
That was looking at Vark.
Okay. Second thing.
Looks like we're walking at night.
Kari never mentioned who the person who were guarding.
No, but he inferred it.
All right, this one of the.
He specifically went from person to person. Goes like, "Not you. It's not you. It might be you. Might be you. But you've not said anything."
Okay. I'm saying I'm feeling a little sussy. Anyways, that's all I wanted to say. We can continue on to the next phase. I'm sorry for taking up time.
Okay. So, while the group enters into the palace, what is Hollow Hollow doing? The child is wreaking havoc.
Yeah. So sorry, I was muted. Well, not dealing with politics, but I would like. Is there, or there probably is there a bookstore within the city that sells both just regular books and potentially magical books,
I mean,
or books
yeah,
containing magical knowledge?
there are bookstores
Yeah.
for sure. As far as like what do you call it? As far as like magical books, depends on what your definition of a magical book is. If you mean like a spell book or a grimoire, potentially.
Not really that. More like something that details how to make like books on alchemy, books on like magical rituals, stuff like that. Not really anything.
I mean, yeah, you'll find plenty
powerful
of
coming
books.
from-
You'll find plenty of books on magical theory in different bookshops.
Okay.
The question is, what,
yeah,
what do you want them
hold
for?
It's just that those are just kind of like the type of stores that might have what I'm looking for. Not exactly that I'm looking at particular stuff like that.
Okay.
But there's like there might be some things that might be within that realm.
It's a fairly well-developed city. There's bookstores galore.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
What exactly are you trying to hunt
Um,
down?
Well, one, if possible, is there a book on the biota that can be found within the quadrant, both natural and magical?
You're looking for what exactly?
A book on biota, like animals, plants that are both natural
fauna.
and yeah, flora and fauna. Yeah, biota is just one word that can encompass all of them. That just essentially native life in the quadrant that is both natural to that area and also magical,
Okay.
or at least magical creatures. Yeah.
You could potentially get a book on what would, I suppose, be referred to as, what do you call it? Arcana flora and arcana fauna.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So both mundane and magical creatures that crop up in the area. As it is, there aren't like encyclopedias that have these things listed out. You have sometimes field guides and books. You have what do you call it? You have compilations, and you have journals put together by individual explorers and biologists and natural scientists who detail some of these things. They list them from or they analyze them from a personal perspective. They give their accounts, their you get what I mean. They give their analysis. They draw rough sketches of it. But as it is, there is no like. If you were to try and get written and drawn material on like every creature within the
It
within
doesn't have to be every creature, just enough to give me an idea of what this area is like wildlife wise.
yeah, that's the thing is like to get even like enough creatures to give a basic picture, you'd have to get like a lot of journals and books and stuff like that, because some of these are like hand bound. A lot of them are rough. They're very anecdotal. They're what do you call it? They're focused on like one or two animals per journal. They're not exhaustive, and they're not exactly we're not exactly in the age of encyclopedias just yet. If you're able to pick up a few, you would be able to get a basic idea. A lot of the bookstores, though, are very much this isn't a library. If you're going to read something, buy it first. Outside of that is, if you want to buy a large amount of this material, it's going to weigh you down. Thankfully, though, you do have a bag of holding or handy haversack.
Yes, I believe Chico is the one that has that on them at the moment.
A handy haversack, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't we both have one separately?
No, I know. I don't think I've
I
ever
know
bought
somebody
one.
else bought some sort of extra dimensional storage.
Yeah, I have a handy
It was me.
haversack.
Ah, yes, it was.
Oh, I also
It was.
just realized.
I bought one too.
I also
I
just
bought Andy
realized,
Haversack.
thinking of magic items, I just realized that it's been 5 days. I think I have my thing now.
That one's up to the DM because, technically speaking, I don't think, realistically, I don't think I would have found much time to work on it during this fine time here.
That is fair.
Yeah, and you've also been like in a hotel room where like tinkering away at stuff in the dead of night or in the evening would have been
Pretty loud.
Kind of-
That's
and
fair.
also kind of
I was
frowned
just
upon.
checking in.
Yeah.
say like
Maybe you're-
once you've departed departed the city, like your first day on the road, more or less, you'll have those finished.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you're looking to peruse bookstores to get books and magazines and journals on local flora and fauna, so biota.
There's also a few other books, but yes, for the main part, that's mainly the main.
What other
focus.
books are you looking for?
Well, one, obviously Arya has made it very evident that he wants to be to some form a monarch. So I was thinking Hola Hola was gonna look for something akin to like The Prince, written by Machiavelli, for Karya.
Oh no, he's gonna become a conqueror. Don't give him that.
And Holo Holo not knowing any better is wants to get it for him.
You weren't already a conqueror?
Listen, I may have started that, but I'm trying. I'm reforming myself.
Okay, so considering it's a role of some sort.
Oh boy.
This probably would be where I would ask for a gather information check, but that's not a thing.
I don't think knowledge local would necessarily fit.
No, knowledge local is just knowing the local stories of an area or knowing things about a place.
Yeah.
It's like knowing the name of the most popular inn, or knowing big names in the area, or landmarks, or important buildings, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I would say
Perception, maybe?
let's say perception. Probably perception.
Yeah, okay. The worst I can get for this is a 30. 27.
27. Lovely. So, you spend a good amount of time perusing through various bookstores. What would you say your budget is for this?
Holo Holo doesn't care about his money, so his entire
How much money you
coffers,
got?
I guess? With how much I spent lately, I believe that is around 3,398 gold.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So you spend a good amount of time perusing through. I'm just gonna say, because of how reckless you are with money, I'm not even going to ask at this point. By the time you are done and you exit the last bookstore, your arms are out straight and they are piled high with literature, to the point where they go up to your chin, of just books and journals and magazines and and tracts and and gazettes, just piled up like a stack of newspaper. Because it's basically just hand bound together paper, more or less, soft cover or even no cover. That's just there weighing down your arms, and by the time you're done, you're out about. Okay. 120 gold.
Oh, that's not as much as I thought it was going to be. 120?
Each of these are individually handwritten and bound, so yes, it's a bit more than just if it was mass-produced. Yes, 120 gold. I just rolled a d12 and multiplied it by 10. I got a 12.
Okay.
So yes, you're out 120 gold for a variety of hand-penned, hand-bound, and otherwise highly anecdotal, but at the same time potentially very useful information written and documented by local minds, some of which might even include some of the Society Quadratica, because they tend to be the largest. They tend to be the largest body of people that pen intellectual works in this section of the world, particularly in the Quadrant. And the going back to the hotel and leafing through the various materials, you find, yes, it's full of plants and animals of different types, magical and non-magical, detailing observed behaviors by researchers that tail these animals or observe them for days and weeks on end, seeing what they eat, what food they pass up, where they sleep, at what times of the day, what fights they pick, what fights they avoid, that kind of thing, how they interact with them with humanoids, and whether they avoid them or cozy up to them or try to kill them on sight, whether they're territorial or not. So you get a nice solid picture. Overall, the Quadrant is, especially in comparison to some place like, I don't know, like the north, is an overall fairly peaceful place, though it does have its fair share of standout animals and plants. The flowers are perhaps the most feverishly detailed part of the flora aspect of the local ecosphere. Something about the flowers in Lorbus in particular, something has caused them to become varied, extremely colorful, and develop strange and very different botanical and medicinal effects. Besides being very nutrient rich and great as fertilizer, they're also nutritious. They can sub in for a meal in most cases, though it's probably best not to subsist yourself off them for long periods of time. As you well know, there are types of flowers that can give different flavors, others that are sworn by to be great medicines for things like jaundice and joint pain and headaches and things like that. Others which supposedly can cure most afflictions. Some said to repel insects in the summer, others that are known to be of great use as a way of warding off evil spirits, that kind of thing. Flowers, it seems, are a deep part of Lorbus's culture, and almost symbiotic in a way. People cultivate the flowers, and the flowers help them in turn. The animals are mostly pretty normal. You have your typical temperate biome affairs. You have wolves, you have rabbits and hares, you have deer and occasional bear. You have the typical arboreal creatures. Lots of birds, and plenty of pollinating insects and birds and burrowing rodents. Naturally, an ecosystem with a lot to pollinate fosters lots of animals that pollinate. Then it gets to some of the more magical creatures. You have things like the Whizmind hummingbird, which is known for its incredible speed and appetite, with a metabolism so incredibly quick it can pollinate an entire field of flowers in a night. You have things, some of the less lovable creatures, like the Catoblepus, which is a abhorrent and supposedly supernaturally ugly creature with an extremely long neck that can kill with a stare. It tends to live in stagnant and fetid swamps. You have what do you call it? You have mountain drakes. You have, because there's a thing of a mountain range, not huge, but it exists here within the country of Lorbus. Overall, it seems like a fairly moderate place with the occasional bit of danger waiting around, and typically in places that are out of the way where humanoids don't tend to spend a lot of time. Stagnant marshes, deep forests, high mountains, deep caves, that kind of thing.
Well, I have it all.
That you do. Probably not a complete picture of the ecosystem, but a pretty decent glimpse into it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I have it all.
Ecology, I think.
Ecology.
Environmental studies. So,
Yeah. Now I know what we could probably potentially avoid if we're out and about again. Oh boy. Okay.
I'll even give you I'll say with how kind of spotty the information is, but still useful, a +2 bonus on knowledge nature checks to avoid concerns.
Yay, and wonder if I could harvest any of these things if we find them anyways.
Maybe.
Yes.
So while you spend your time doing that, I'm gonna go back to this.
Yeah.
So, you guys have been welcomed into the atrium. The palace is far more active at this time of the day. You see people waiting in line, some speaking to what look to be well-appointed people in fine garb. You see serving staff, often the side wings. You see maids in long muted dresses and serving men, batmen, as it were, in in unassuming muted attire, hanging back, cleaning some things, moving other stuff, bringing in refreshments to the guests waiting in the atrium. And you're motioned through by what you recognize to be the guard previously who ran off to go ask about your presence here. Up the same familiar steps. Actually, no, it wouldn't be. Further down the wing, as it were, to the left, and then around a corner as you're led up a flight of stairs, and then through a large set of double doors, where the guard then stands to the side, motions to the set of doors, and says, "Please try to keep all noise to a minimum."
Will do.
Cool. Do you open the doors?
I suppose so. I see no reason not to.
Suppose so, yes.
I guess we're.
Yep.
Oh boy,
Yeah.
this is going to be fun. You open the doors with a creak and a whine as the hinges protest a little bit, which is just enough noise to draw every eye in the room towards the door where you are now.
Of course.
In the room, it's long. The walls are covered in recognized to be various decorations. You see charts and maps and weapons hung on mantelpieces and display hooks. You see glass cases along the walls standing by them, filled with fine crockery and daggers shining in the candlelight. The chandeliers along the ceiling, frescoes painted onto the walls, illuminate the hall brilliantly, and especially the large, you recognize to be the long table beneath it, in stark relief. Gathered around this long table, on both sides, you see various individuals, all dressed at the very least in fancy fashion. At least I would think so from immediate observation, especially from Karia, would be the sort of first word the mind would go to. And at the very end is King Guillermo, who sees you all come in, and I can now. What was it? Yes. Or did she left me with something? I can now throw this up on stream and also share it. Now that we have a colored version, I can share it in Simple Path and throw it up on stream so people can see it.
Oh.
Look at the man.
That's a king.
He's very young. That really accentuates it.
He does look very young with that particular style. Mind you, he's 27.
Let me get him a new shirt.
But yes. So, standing at the very end of the table, braced on his palms, just kind of, and one hip kind of placed against the table, he looks up to see all of you, and a small smirk plays across his face as he gestures to all of you to come over, and the rest of the people lining the table. You see roughly about a dozen or so people. You see you see a couple of older men. You see what looks to be a woman of about middle age, one younger lady, a couple of men perhaps a little bit older than the king, and then of course to his direct right is his advisor, who you can see there is now a very pronounced vein standing out on his forehead. As he looks to his king, looks back to all of you, bends his head down, and the sigh is audible even from across the room. As the king says, "Pay them no mind. They'll be of no disturbance, I'm sure." As he then gestures for you all to sort of take up a spot behind him. As he looking at each of you, brings up a little finger to his brings up his finger to his mouth as if to say, and once more bends over the table facing his advisors and ministers. It says, and so as we were discussing about the trade routes with the new United Duchies, to which the middle-aged woman holds up a hand and says, "I'm sorry, are we not going to bring up the elephant in the room?" Yeah. Absolutely no idea what you're talking about, Your Majesty. People may treat politicians like idiots, and they may be very well right for the most part, but even I am not so dense as she points with a single dainty, long-nailed finger towards your group, to simply let that go unspoken. There is a man with a sword as big as he is currently standing directly behind our king. You think I would not have a protest towards that?
He has a dragon too.
There's a dragon. There's also a dragon slithering around his ankles. Yes.
Yeah, I will say during all this, Flick's hairs are standing on end, and the slits of his eyes have narrowed considerably.
Yeah, there are currently something like 12. Something like 12 plus the advisor political figures all eyeing you all down with the suspicion of a spy master.
Flick is doing his best to steal himself.
Can I to the actual advisor near us say very quietly towards him, I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry.
The advisor just looks at you, and says, "No, you're not. You're not. If you were actually sorry, you wouldn't have come. Sorry."
Clark is still just reading the book.
Flick is also putting on a polite smile, doing his best to steal himself, like I said.
Mm-hmm. The advisor, for his part, raises up a hand and says, Normally, I would ask that His Majesty consult me on the matter of meetings with individuals not part of the council when it comes to matters of state, especially during a meeting of state. For the longest time, I was under the impression that I was your most entrusted advisor, but again and again, you always put our bond to the test. As your advisor and most occupied with your security, you most certainly put my skills, because you always keep me on my toes, Your Majesty. I know, I have a knack for that, don't I? You most certainly do, my king. My ladies, my lords and ladies, I can personally attest to the character of this group before you, even though they are here as some sort of strange ploy by our kingship. I can attest that they are all of sound character, if not necessarily sound mind, that they are capable of being trusted, though even I have doubts about letting them hear confidential matters of state, to which the king goes, Baldric, it's not necessary. Okay? We've already worked for all the very sensitive issues. I made sure that we tackled those first. That's why I was so insistent on that at the very beginning of the meeting. Yes, I had wondered why you were doing that. Yes. So, since that's all taken care of, we can simply discuss the more innocuous matters of state. After all, one of my friends here, who I had the pleasure of meeting yesterday, is very curious about how these things are done in a kingdom day to day, and as such, I wanted to give him a crash course in what it's like to run a kingdom. You should probably consider not doing so. So, please, act like they're not even here. There is some grumbling. There is some protests. But overall, the cabinet eventually settles back into a groove, and for the next half an hour or so, there is more discussion. There's talk of trade routes and peace treaties and diplomacy, sending advisors and sending diplomats and agents of agents to speak with various international powers. They're talking about the new pope that has been ushered into the seat of the gods, who's been chosen, and setting up a good line of communication with him and the other countries surrounding that in the papacy. There's the tenuous peace with Eridine. There's the constantly deaf ear of Hukaton as they try and at least get a dwarf to talk to them for once. Constantly attempting, rarely ever succeeding, but at the very least still persisting in that. And of course the tumultuous duchies to the south, which have recently started to solidify and form, now proving themselves to be both a great opportunity and also a very volatile powder keg. And then of course more domestic things, like they have relationships with the other three members of the Quadranon, and then of course internal affairs in Lorbus. At one point, a guard does enter, and a note is passed along the table, coming up to the king, which then eventually reaches the hands of the advisor, who reads it quickly and then places it in the pile of paperwork. It says, well, since we've come to the more domestic issues, it should be said that there's supposedly been reports of bandits masquerading as guards here within the limits of our country. We will have to step up patrols and keep an eye out. They've been operating near the main road, which means they're getting brave. To which the man who is come to identify himself as the Minister of Defense, the Minister of War.
Oh.
Being a somewhat middle-aged man with a scar running along one cheek, with close cropped black hair and several several badges and awards pinned to his chest. It says, "I'll make sure to get right on that, sir. I'll step up the patrols along the main road and the side routes."
At this point, would there be? Oh, of course. The moment I open my mouth, the baby starts getting mad. Oh, come here. At this point, Karya would probably, kind of start talking a little bit. He'll kind of open his mouth and go, "Yes, not to interrupt, as I've been told to remain quiet, but..."
Lots of eyebrows are quirked as people look at you for interrupting.
Yeah, I was quite curious about these bandits, as I was under the impression that this, especially the central city, was quite safe. Has there been a bandit problem before?
With the city? No. Most organized crime has been ousted within the last roughly 10 years. This is Minister of War speaking. In the last 10 years, we've managed to oust most detectable traces of organized crime. That does not to say that there aren't traces of it still present within the city. I'm not so naive to think that. But we have done, I think, an admirable job of ousting most traces of the more potent criminal presence within the city. Unfortunately, bandits and opportunists are always going to be a thing, but we try to counter that by presenting more opportunity to the people of the nation, so they do not have to resort to such things. Unfortunately, and which the advisor breaks in, and unfortunately, it would seem that we're not just dealing with simple bandits. We do occasionally have those, but they tend to stick to the more far-flung side routes. The fact that they are operating along the main road implies that this was not something they do not have a camp in the area. They do not intend to stay in the area for very long. This was a elaborately planned one-time strike that they intended to pull off and then recede into the shadows, I can only assume.
If
Tells...
I may be
Mhm.
so bold, I don't suspect that would be the case.
No?
No, and Karya will kind of take a step forward just a bit. That was quite a bit of planning for a simple one-time attempt that was quickly dashed. 2 bandits with guard uniforms and a fabricated seal of the crown is, well, that's quite a lot for being so brazen as to, with only 2 of them, attack our caravan, and most importantly, to be scared off by some intimidating
It was you
words.
that was attacked, I see. And do you have any idea what their objective was? Were they simply looking to steal from you, or did they have an objective in mind?
Vark lowers his book, says nothing.
Yeah, at that point, I'll look. I won't even look at Vark. I'll shake my head. They seem to be looking for someone. They were trying to gain access to a home, and they were looking for a key, and for this they were stopping everyone along the road. I just so happened to get out, and I threatened them
Are you
with
certain?
their lives, and...
You said they were
Well,
stopping
I don't-
everyone along the road. How could you know that?
Well, I'm assuming.
You're assuming.
unless
We don't
we
need
were targeted.
assumptions. We need certainty here. Say what you know.
I'll look over to Vark.
Make a roar.
Roar.
She heard
So-
you, Jules.
So what I can tell from what you've said is that from what you know, these bandits stopped you. They were looking for somebody, supposedly, I can only assume, in your group, because we have not heard of any other attacks especially by people in falsified uniforms with a forged seal of the crown.
Okay, yes, okay. I hate subtlety. I should stop trying. I'm not quite good at it. Anyways.
I will always you have the grand misfortune of having myself as your opponent, and I have way more years on you.
What were you saying, Vark? You started.
I was muted when it happened.
Oh.
So, but I got a laughing fit because of the child anyway, so it's all good.
Baby go rar.
As Karia, looks towards Vark, he's going to give him a little nod, but that's about it. Just another signal. Yes, go ahead.
Our friend Vark is, well, being actively hunted by those who are looking to, I believe, acquiesce the knowledge of his master. And with him being the sole heir, we have been on protective detail. I apologize for the subterfuge. That's not normally how I do things, but when a friend is in trouble, I would prefer to take the safe road. I am under the impression they were following us, and I would only assume that there would be more of them, as if they were willing to risk their lives with just 2 of them assaulting our caravan, to be quickly ran off by the threats of me ripping them limb from limb.
I'm not taking this as canon that Karia didn't notice the 8 people with crossbows around the caravan.
That's what I was going to ask about.
I literally did not notice.
No. Vark would actually speak up and say. There were 12 armed people. 2 had approached our cart, but many more lay in ambush with crossbows loaded.
Oh, I see.
Yes, clearly they brought out not quite the heavy artillery, but definitely much more manpower for capturing this friend of ours.
Clearly, which means that they are well staffed and well funded. Well then, it seems like, my friend, this is the prince speaking. My evening-skinned friend, you have a conspiracy hunting you, which is exciting, and I don't envy you. In fact, I pity you, I think. But regardless, then the advisor breaks in. Regardless, this makes me question the wisdom of having you as a group in the palace with our king next to you. Because if I'm going to be honest, this also places a little bit of suspicion on your group. But that aside,
hi, baby.
This, at the very least, seems like it's not a threat to Lorbis' interest. If, at the very least, it is a threat on guests of our nation. If your friend here is being actively hunted by an organization such as this backs up what we know, in that this seems like it was an orchestrated single strike with an intent to pick up and move on, which I can only think to mean they intend to ambush you in the future. At a time where you're either not prepared, exhausted from being paranoid all the time, or when you wander into some place where they have a little more control. Likely either another trap that's going to be a bit better prepared.
What?
Or if what you said is true about this mentor of his, this home, if you intend to go visit that, they may wait for you there. That would be very careful.
May I offer... May I propose a plan?
The advisor crosses his arms, looks at you and goes, a plan to do what exactly?
Well, these men are admittedly tarnishing the name of your kingdom. Much of our subtlety when we first arrived was because they had not only a royal, at least, admittedly, shabby costume, but a royal seal, fabricated or not. They are using your kingdom's good name for malice. Now,
perhaps they are just going after us, but if they're not, they could be attacking innocents on the road and doing this same ploy. Now, we don't know, and as you said, I won't leave it to assumption, but if we are the targets, and it is your kingdom's good name on the line, I would, if my companions would be willing to join me on this, I would be willing to perhaps lay a trap, perhaps put ourselves out in the open, and though we may be in danger, if your forces are nearby, you could apprehend these people and perhaps get to the bottom of this, as we are many things, but we don't have the intelligence of an entire kingdom by our side.
Hmm.
It would help us. We would gain a bit more safety, having someone watch over just in case they bring a large force. And it would nullify the problem of bandits roaming your area and using your kingdom, for lack of a better term, as a scapegoat for these activities.
It's the older woman that speaks up now and says, I don't see what we stand to gain from this. Not really. Yes, they're using the name of the kingdom, but as far as I see it, the moment you guys leave, that stops being our problem. They're only using those uniforms because you're within the borders of Lorbus. And overall, we actually stand to be harmed by this. Guardsmen could be hurt. For all we know, you could be drawing us into a larger conspiracy. We have no reason to trust you, let alone stick our necks out for you.
It
Well-
continues to be your problem.
Yes.
A member of the Society Quadracta. Fucked up that name. when a member of the Society Quadracta. I'm just not gonna try.
Society
when a member of
The
They call
SQ.
them the quads.
The quads.
the SQ. The quads. When a member of the Society of renowned scholars and archivists proclaimed that he was harassed by mere bandits pretending to be guards of the Kingdom of Lorbus, and when appearing before court to seek shelter or something to be done about it, was turned away
Oh,
and
God.
deemed a threat.
On top of that, we don't know what they're planning to do with this knowledge. If this is a bigger threat, or even if it is just small-time bandits, there is a reason that that knowledge has been locked away. And if there's one thing I have learned of bandits in my travels, it's that bandits often shoot for the next big thing. This could become much worse,
The
and I would rather
the younger
assist.
woman actually breaks in and says, I don't think it's bandits. Bandits
Not
implies
bandits.
they're just opportunistic thugs on the street side. This isn't bandits. Very clearly. Like the advisor has already
Mercenaries, perhaps?
No, not even that, I don't think. If the advisor has already very much said that these are well funded and well staffed hit squad that are prepared, have a very skilled forger at hand to forge documents on, I would assume, fairly short notice. Which tells me this isn't banditry, this is organized crime. This is, well, from what it sounds like, this is a capo. You have somehow, I can only assume, drawn the ire of some jumped up mafioso looking to... I'm sorry, who was your mentor? She looks towards Vark.
Un momento.
Deciding
Just
whether you
going to
actually want to
open-
say it to her or...
No, just a quick look at
Probably
the
remember-
document.
Remembering the name, because names are hard.
Correct.
of the various titles.
I don't actually know her titles, but I have her full name.
Mhm.
So Vark, theatrical as he sometimes tends to be, shuts the book with a loud thud of the pages hitting together, and then turns it towards the person who had asked him this question. And from the distance, they probably can actually make out the title or whatever is written on there. But it is, after all, the book about her.
Mhm.
So he goes, "My master's name is Lydia Fanaya de la Rosa."
The young girl you're speaking to pauses a moment and says, I recognize that name. To which then an older gentleman further back on the table goes, your mentor was the Rose.
The very
And
same.
then there's more recognition throughout the table. To which then there's some murmuring among the table. Then the spy master, that being the older woman, purses her lips and then says, "Would explain a little bit what exactly they're intending to do, what exactly why they did all of this, just exactly was at stake." And if some mafioso, some mafia from somewhere here within the Quadratica, from Quadratica, that is their technical word name for the Quadranon, somewhere here within the Four Nations, were to access your master's home, get access to whatever research she was doing, that could very well bode ill for quite a few people. Well, if this is all true, and this is more than just a group of bandits looking to filch somebody's inheritance, this has become a potential matter of national security. I love those. They keep me up all night. To which the king, kind of claps his hands together and goes, "Lovely! One day here, and you guys have already brought a conspiracy to the table. See? I told you they'd be entertaining." I will say one thing, though, says the king. I'm overruling anybody that says that we're not going to help these folks. Anybody that doesn't want to help them, raise your hand now, say your piece. The spy mistress seems to consider for a moment. There are others, there's grumbling, there's mumbling, but so far no hands go up after the presented evidence. It says, excellent, wonderful. Then I can say with assurance that we're going to help these people. We're going to get these mafiosi the hell out of our country. We're going to clear our name. And then he turns to your group and then says, but he adjusts his cloak a little bit, tightening his belt just a tad, as if mostly just kind of fiddling around with the belt buckle. You owe me a favor after this. All of you do.
What
Well?
sort of favor?
Oh no, I get to call it in. That's just how this works. Promise, I promise, I won't betray your trust, but this is going to be my country and my people sticking our necks out to help you in for something that you brought to our doorstep by all accounts.
It is my problem and my request, so you should have a favor from me and no one else.
Ooh, but it's also a threat that extends to the rest of the group. And also, just to keep things simple, I'm gonna have it on your group tab because call it King's Privilege. Besides which, I could be really mean and just say deal with it yourself, but I'm not going to do that because I'm not an asshole. But I am going to say that if you want help with this, just play along.
Well, I'm more than
I
willing
promise.
to do so.
I promise. Any favor I ask from you is not going to be something that's going to be beyond the pale.
Like, laws of it. It shall be done, Your Majesty.
Excellent. Never call me that again.
I'm not the only one who hates that title, then. I think that it's incredibly pretentious.
I abhor it, and I only allow my cabinet to call me it because it's tradition. You guys are my friends and my guests, so never call me that again. Just refer to me.
Noted your awesomeness. I
No,
suppose.
God, no. Good. Never. Ugh.
Okay, fair enough.
That sounds childish, and I am not a child.
Guillermo.
That is fair.
Guillermo works just fine.
Guillermo it is.
If you want to be if that's too much of a mouthful, you can just call me Gil.
I don't like that one. I
Gil.
don't trust anyone named Gil.
No, I'll just go with Guillermo.
Real name Gilgamesh. Anyway,
That's exactly why.
King of Kings.
He tears off his shirt and he becomes ripped.
I am King of Kings.
All of a sudden, tons of mini gold portals open.
Tons of gold.
You
He's
may become
suddenly
a king.
blonde asshole.
There's a reason why I'm teaching you, because you may be a king, but I am your king. I am King of Kings. Ah. Anyway, wait, no, that King of Kings was started with an A. No, he's King of Heroes. Anyway, so he's like, so you all owe me a favor. I'm about to do you all a favor. I have no idea where the hell to start with this. Advisor, advise away.
Well, I suppose that road, but
No, they won't.
I don't suspect.
It's
Yeah,
actually-
I don't
the advisor
suspect
just
they would
becomes like
stay.
they won't repeat at the same place. If nothing else, they're going to wait for you to move into a more advantageous position. It's not going to be in the capital. It's not going to be on that same spot. It's probably going to be somewhere closer to your destination, or possibly even close,
Yes.
like within the borders of Rosino, because I know that's where her tower is located, which makes things
Where does the
difficult. Because
Where do
if-
the bandits?
Hmm?
Apologies for interrupting, but where were the bandits again, Karia? It was along the main road, but wasn't it in the forests?
They returned to the tree line, but I suppose that was not any indication as to where they were going. More so, just an advantageous part where they could, well, assault some unsuspecting travelers.
Well, in that case, they could be using the terrain to their advantage.
very
Most likely, if they have any intelligence.
Lorbis and particularly Rosino are chock full of dense forestry that are easy to take advantage of, as well as the occasional bit of mountain and hill and many hills to hide behind. If I am going to assume they're going to be anywhere, it's going to be more than likely closer to Rosino. Quite possibly, for all we know, that's where they're based out of, and that's where they're waiting for you all to tread, which makes things difficult for us if we want to help. Because if they are waiting for you at your destination, if we want to mobilize any sort of group to help you catch these individuals, we're going to be crossing over country lines into one of the most militant members of the Quadranon. And that can be seen as an act of war.
Yes,
more
that
than likely our friends, he says with air quotes with his claws, are probably going to be waiting right on the doorstep, if not right inside the city limits, maybe.
They may try to catch you before that. I doubt they want to wait until the very last second for you to get your hands on the material or information for fear of you potentially. For all I know, Lydia was known for her conjuration. She may have some sort of emergency teleporter within the tower that allow you to abscond. I don't think they want to chance that. What they may try to do is try to catch you and then have that be a last resort, trying to catch you at the doorstep. We can't discount it though, because if what I believe is true, and her research is that valuable, then they may become very well. If they repeatedly fail to catch you, then they may very well be desperate to get access to it.
Yes.
So if would say rather than the elaborate trap that you suggested, name was Kalua?
Oh, yes. I am Karia of the Brood of Orthos.
Karia,
yes.
The trap you offered, probably not ever going to happen. That's their forte. We can't ever hope to match them on that side. That kind of playing field. We shouldn't even attempt to do so. What we need to do is try and be prepared. But I think the best we can manage, at least at this point, the best we can expect is they're going to be waiting for you at some point, whether within the limits of Rosino's capital or on its roads, somewhere along the way, or maybe even by the tower itself. They're going to be waiting to ambush you again, or find you unsuspecting, or I can't even begin to imagine at this point, because to plan too specifically now would doom ourselves to failure. But what we can do is reinforce you. We could send, I would say, our safest bet would be 2 or 3, considering the size of your cohort. Any more would be potentially dangerous. That could be seen as even an extra national squad moving within another country's borders. But a group of travelers with maybe a couple of hired mercenaries as guards after being assaulted at a previous point.
Hired escort.
Hired escorts, exactly. With already how well armed you all are, obviously, you scared them off beforehand, so they'll have extra reason to be cautious. They'll have actually no actual idea of your combat capabilities. They may have reason to underestimate you. So, we send 2 or 3 or 4 people along to venture with you till a point where we'll send, I think, a couple of combat-ready individuals, but most importantly, we'll send a couple of investigators, because what's the most important right now is that we get people to the potential source of this, to perhaps the root of these mafiosi. They find evidence. Possibly they find these falsified uniforms if they haven't already torn them up and used them as fuel for their campfires. Likewise with this falsified document. Probably too valuable to discard off the cuff, but if they're resourceful enough or they have enough capital, they'll probably be able to make a new one given time and whatever this forgery contact they have is. Point being, we need people who are capable and skilled in investigation. Get there, look into it, find the evidence to clear the country's name, and find proof of this organized syndicate connection. In the meantime, those investigators can also help you sniff out potential ambushes, ready yourselves, beat them off, potentially, hopefully, root out whatever this organized criminal syndicate is, thereby freeing your friend Vark here of any further danger in his life. Because even once you get into the tower, anytime you set foot in the Quadrant, so long as they exist, your friend's life will be in danger. So then he'll have that knowledge sitting with him, and they'll probably try to pry it out of you. So, I'm thinking, is I'm going to send 2 of my most accomplished investigators with you, along with a couple of our more accomplished soldiers. They can accompany you and help you in your investigation, help you track down the source of these organized criminals while you're moving within the limits of Rosino, hopefully evading any sort of suspicion from the local government. If you are questioned by the Rosino Guard and by any officials there, I would ask you to do a much better job flying than you did here. And most importantly, make sure that you do not at any point give away any sort of connection to our government, because as much as we are on amicable terms, they are suspicious as it is with their dealings with Aerodine. So it is of imperative importance that you portray yourselves as just simply traveling across the borders and being assailed by a group of by bandits or organized criminals, and not that you are working secretly in cooperation with us, because then a whole conspiracy kicks off that I'd really rather not deal with. This is part of the reason why I was edgy about potentially helping with this Because God, did this get too complicated for this early in the morning.
Yes, and frankly, muddying the waters will be far too much trouble, even for well, for anyone.
Precisely so. So, send a small escort with you. They will be ready for you to join you by tomorrow morning. I'll brief them myself. I will tell them the details of their mission, and they will accompany you and help you. They will stay with you until such time as either you no longer find yourself needing to stay within the Quadranon, or until you have found and rooted out whatever remains of this organized criminal syndicate. After which they will then part ways. I can promise you we will not do anything, and I don't know if you had this suspicion, but I'd rather get this out of the way now, that we will not follow you into the tower and try to in any way, shape, or form, or filch the rightfully inherited knowledge of you and your mentor. So, it is, he looks out the window, approximately 8:30 in the morning, and I am already exhausted, and I want this briefing to be done with.
Vark raises a hand.
The king munches over. He goes, "Yeah, sure. What's up?"
Permission then to end this particular topic with a closing statement.
Sure.
Vark takes a step forward and for a moment measures everyone in the hall. How many approximately would you say there are?
I mean, of the officials, there's the king, there's his advisor, and then there's about a dozen cabinet members and ministers.
Yeah. I am new to politics and intrigue of the royal kind, so I hope you permit me to be frank and all-encompassing when I say, for those who might be in on this among you, or those who might be listening in, I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want. If you are looking for any artifacts my master had, I'm unfortunately to tell you that she was never in the habit of storing anything powerful or immensely of wealth. But what I have is a very particular set of skills. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you. If you let this matter go, that'll be the end of it. I will not look for you. I will not pursue you. But if you don't, I will come for you. I will find you. And I will kill you.
I hate you so much.
Have a very nice day, everyone. My name is Mark. I am
To
the
which
lover.
one of the men in the far back goes, "Offense taken."
God damn it, Vera. I'm so mad at you right now. The moment that you said
Fucking
The
yeah, the
moment
taken
you-
monologue. Yeah.
the
we
moment
now
you
we
I'm sorry, go.
we now know Vark's last name, Neeson.
Neeson, yeah.
I sat there and I was like, what I do have of a particular set of skills, I went, really? We're going with
We're going with the fucking taken
I-
monologue. Yep.
I was contemplating whether or not he would be in the mindset to say shit like that, and yeah, right now he is.
Oh, beautiful.
I slap.
So with that little monologue, that's just like, to which the king kind of he recoils a little bit and goes, "Wow, intense. Okay, so you heard it, everybody. Vark, also known as the Beloved, will come for you if for some reason you feel like ganking his master's work. So let that be a lesson to everybody, to any moles within the group." Which just kind of looks like, I don't think there's actually anybody here, but okay. Actually, no, he said it pretty well. You're all dead. Cool. Anyway. So, that little bit of soapboxing, grandstanding done. That's about the morning briefing over and done with. I think all of you probably need probably a strong drink, or at the very least a cup of tea. Which he turns to the group and says, so, I hope that was fun for all of you. It certainly was for me. Now, I've got to go talk to my to the people of the country and the people of the capital, because right about now is when the morning audiences start. I go answer any questions the folks have. You're free to hang around for that as well if you want, but it's not nearly as interesting.
Oh, I intended to do so. My people skills have been needing a brush up, apparently, as I've been told. I am scary and hard to approach.
Well, you're definitely scary, that's for sure.
I do have one personal request.
Were you?
Oh, I'm with the group.
I don't recognize you. You weren't there yesterday.
I was
This-
outside.
A second. My guys told me about a blonde-haired man with a horn who was pacing back and forth. Did you saw it off or something?
Wait, what do you mean blonde-haired man was facing back and forth? I was dressed up the whole time.
Oh, right, yes. Sorry, no, blonde-haired woman with a horn who was pacing back and forth outside all day while I was talking to these guys here. Were you just loitering outside the palace all night last night?
Yes.
And now you're here to make a personal...
Is it
Arya,
a crime for a woman to be nervous?
it's a crime to loiter outside of the royal residence. You know, my guards were talking about potentially arresting you. But, you know, it's just, Kara, you keep interesting friends. Anyway, what's your request?
Could I speak to someone who was the envoy to the United Duchies of Naissance? I have a few questions for them.
Well, we're still kind of setting up that whole thing. They don't really have a unified body of government at the moment for us to speak to. We do have the old diplomat who fled the country after the country fell apart. But I doubt his insight is going to be of much use now that the entire nation has been upheaved and splintered. We're still
That is
sorting out the talks with them because they're as it is right now, the borders have been closed for a while because they've been hunting down the last of the nobility and have been very skeptical of any other nations outside potentially trying to take advantage of them.
Yes. I'm aware of that.
Hmm.
But is there anyone who could potentially shed some light on the situation? I have some
I mean, you could most likely speak to a couple of my core ministers who could fill you in on what we know of the political and national state. Hey, Al, how you doing? Thanks for dropping in. Yes, if you want some insight into how the country's doing at the moment, my advisor keeps me fairly afloat of them. I could probably answer any questions you have. Or if not that, then maybe what do you call it? Our minister of our our external affairs. That'd be funny. Our foreign relations minister could more than likely fill you in the more exact parts of it.
Well, I would rather not take up more of your time, Your Majesty. So
Please
I'll,
don't call me that.
No, you are a king, you are a monarch of a nation, so I will address you as such.
One of those. Okay, then. I do have a bunch of people waiting for me, and I don't want to keep them waiting, so that's fine. I can redirect you to, if you motions over and says, oh my god, there is a red-haired elven lady who just left with the group out the door there after the briefing ended. You speak to her. She's the one who's been primarily in charge of the international political relations and diplomacy for a good few years. She was previously working for my father before I succeeded him, and has been since doing a pretty good job. And she keeps afloat of most of the important stuff happening outside the country.
Then I'll be sure to ask her.
Probably catch her if you go now.
And then Mallory just turns away.
Yep.
And leaves.
Strides out
Oh,
the
well,
meeting room.
first he like gives a courtesy, a very, very
Very
trained,
elegant. Yes. Elegant.
elegant.
Like, yes. So, the rest of you, I assume, follow the king as he goes to his audience chamber. The throne room.
Yes. As we're kind of leaving the room, or even during kind of the discussion of them potentially being after whatever artifacts within this place, Flick has this kind of knowing look, this kind of knowing, almost, I guess, dreading look on his face now and then, almost as if recalling something.
Hmm.
But he does not say much.
Okay.
And with that, I'm going to be right back.
It's not too long to get to the throne room, and this time you are bid to stand to the side and not say anything, as this is specifically time for the king to bond with his people. And such it is. The audience room is, or the throne room is large. Of course it is. It's a long hallway with a wide carpet, braziers, buttresses flying, and so on, and very elaborately decorated hall with a large stone throne at the end, upon which, lowering himself down, is then now very uncomfortable King Guillermo. Though you notice that the stone throne itself is covered in throw pillows. As he lowers himself down onto it, and gestures the first in a long line of people to approach. And it's like that for a good 2 or 3 hours, as the king sees everybody that approaches him. From the unhinged beggars to the young flower girls, to middle-aged balding businessmen, upstart nobles, and everybody in between. Some people leave the throne room beaming, others crying, others disappointed or even angry. But most of the time, nothing quite so extreme. Usually it's just a question. Sometimes it's just a farmer, a middle-aged farmer who comes up and asks, "Why is the sky blue?" To which the king has usually an answer, as he explains that he explains that, well, you know how rain falls? Yes. So there's water in the air, right? Sometimes it falls down. Right? You know how water, when it reflects off of a pond, is it's kind of like a rainbow? And there's blue in there? Well, the air up high is mostly just showing us blue. That's why. Most of the time, answers like that are usually enough to satisfy the people who come up. It's simple things like, what is the wind, and why do my flowers die, and other things like that. He does his best to answer them, and when he doesn't know, he just says, I don't know. Get my best people on it. And if there's ever a question he's not able to answer, he notes it down on a pad, and then he says, I'll get my best people on it, and then motions for the next person to come. Sometimes it's a young man or a woman who approaches the throne and, well, to put it simply, confesses to the young king. And then he very bluntly, but still an attempt to be gentle, in a blunt but gentle manner, as best as he can seem to muster, turns them down. In some cases, they look disheartened. In other cases, tearful. In others, resolute when leaving the throne room. Some come to question his worth as a leader. Others asking him how he thinks he can ever make it as a king, to which he usually responds with, I don't know. And then there's the more business side of things, where you have merchants and representative noble houses who come and discuss business with him. Usually that's when his advisor or some, like the Minister of Finance, takes over, and they step to the side and have a lengthy conversation about that, if it's not something the king can answer in several sentences or less. And that's how a lot of the two hours pass by. And let's just say 3 hours. And the king keeps going until the line runs out. The time keeps going until it's almost, I'm pretty sure, noon around that time, and the sun is gotten to the point where it's completely out of the windows. It's risen high enough that it's probably above the building completely. And finally, the last person steps up in line. And same as with the first person, same as with everybody else, the king beckons them forward. And they ask their question, and he answers it to the best of his ability. And that concludes the audience section of the King's Day. To which he gets up, goes, cool. All right. Stretches his back, stretches his legs. Turns to his advisor and goes, what's next for today? I believe it is talks with the yes, with the Princess of Naya. He goes, oh, joy. Great. All right then. I believe we'll have about 5 minutes to probably eat something and then get on with the rest of my day. To which he turns to the rest of the group and goes, I do hope that that wasn't too boring for all of you. You still want to follow me around, or?
I intend to, however, my compatriots may have other things that they wish to do, so consider me the royal bodyguard for the day.
I think my advisor would have some words against that, but which is, you are absolutely correct. I most certainly would. It's a good thing that you're not actually the royal bodyguard, because that would be a conflict of interest. The game was so we'll have about 5 minutes to stop, have something to eat and drink, and then I've got more business to deal with. This one, you're going to have to stand outside the door, because the Princess of Naya wants to talk to me and not anybody else, and she gets very uppity if anybody else is in the room.
Ah, yes, of course. The young lovers. I would have been.
God, no, please. She's my cousin. She's just very clingy and possessive, and personal, I suppose, would be the best way, or most charitable way of putting it. She's like, I guess cousin three times. Regardless, please, no, never.
I was about to say, might not want to overcomplicate things with that.
Yeah, there's also the fact that Naya is kind of not on the best relations with with uh with Morbus at the moment, and while it will be absolutely great for relations for about the first 3 months if we were to ever get married, that would very quickly break down. Paranoia would be abundant, and they probably start accusing me of just trying to doctor the relationship between the countries, and potentially even subsume sovereignty of their nation. It's a very... how do I put this? The leaders of the different nations never intermarry, because the different foreign nations of the Quadranon like to keep their sovereignty and their independence from one another. So
I see.
the different leaders marry one another. That potentially leads to conflations of bloodline and potentially confusion as to who has the right to the different thrones. And we never want there to be, like, or at the very least, it was the conceit when the four nations were formed that never at some point should it ever come to the conclusion that a single man sits upon all four thrones. Because in the words of the founding charter of the Quadranon, Baldric, what was the wording again? It was something in like Old Common. It was lest that spine-tickling manticore kissing upstart known as the Emperor of Eridine may forever launch himself upon his own sword. Should our leaders ever come to resemble him, let us all cast ourselves off of the nearest cliff. It came off of the cusp of some really rocky relations with the Eridine Empire. As a matter of fact, the whole reason that the Quadrant was founded was for the sake of we call political and financial independence, as well as religious independence from the Eridine Empire. We were like the Quadranon was a territory that was originally owned by the Empire, and they decided to split off. And while the different leaders had different philosophies on how to run a country, they all agreed that they would rather be independent and work together for the sake of each other's well-being, but also foster their own ideals of how a country should be run, than ever chance Eridine trampling over them again. So, at all times, the four nations are independent of one another, but whenever it comes to outside threats, there is a mutual agreement to band together to drive them out.
This emperor seemed like a dragon of sorts.
Yeah, I suppose you could say that. He was more of an ASMR, claimed to be like he claimed to be celestial, but that was kind of in context. It was like, I don't know, like 1,000 years ago.
In my experience, that's empires for you. Always in lofty head spaces and always breathing down your neck.
Eridine is we're saying this, I'm just assuming while he's striding down the hallway, going to go to the next room. Eridine is interesting because it's a bloodline that bases its divine mandate off of a presupposition that they are descended from Celestials, and a presupposition that those with Celestial blood are those who have the right to rule. So all emperors of Eridine come from the same bloodline, descended from the same Celestial, and they venerate Lady of Light and her Celestials. And those who have the right to rule are those who are directly descended from a Celestial of any type. But so far, there's only one Celestial known that any Emperor has been descended from. It's always been that bloodline. They are of the firm belief that Aasimar or other Celestial blooded are an upper class of being. Anybody who is not divine blood is a second-class citizen. It wasn't quite to the degree that the that the theocracy to the south got, where they claimed that they themselves were to be worshipped, that they were divine, than just being descended from celestial creatures. But they got pretty bad, and they still are sometimes. And they often exercise their beliefs in a way that clashes with most people's wish to live a happy and free life. Here in the Quadranon, most people here don't have divine blood, so by Eridine's philosophy, all of us would just live to serve and feed and supply and otherwise improve the lives of those with celestial blood. We disagree. We prefer to think that everybody has a right to the pursuit of happiness within one's life.
So these Aasimar are no better than the dragons I've met. Well,
I mean, speaking from personal experience, having spoken to quite a few of the people from Eridine, not everybody really buys into the line. Most people just live day to day. It's not nearly as bad as it was something like 1,000 years ago. The Emperor still absolutely seems to buy into that whole tripe, though, as do many of his cousins and sisters and brothers and mothers and fathers and uncles and aunts and so on. The inner circle of the bloodline still very much seems to buy into the whole eugenics rhetoric. But at the very least, from what I can tell, not everybody seems to be of that opinion. In particular, I have recently been speaking to one lady who has a... To which the advisor then bumps his shoulders and says, "We're not to speak about those things in public." So, sorry.
oh my.
That
Huh.
suffice it to say, not everything should always be taken by a case-by-case basis. You should never assume something about somebody. But you can most certainly take their actions as a demonstration of their character in many cases.
Naturally.
So if it walks like a despot, quacks like a despot, and acts like a despot, it's probably a despot. But everybody surrounding him, just because they exist within his general vicinity, doesn't mean they're necessarily as bad as him. Kinds of things that could be. Maybe they don't have any better choice. Maybe they're trying to get away, but they don't have the opportunity. Maybe Eridine might be in a right position very soon to have its mode of government drastically altered and just needs the push. So,
Well, I suspect a hint of attack, or
oh, never an
when-
attack. No. Social engineering, I think, would be the better word for it. Let's just say that when your country is massive, and your empire is built upon the backs of mortals and mundane people, to hold up a very small elite class of celestial-blooded individuals, and people are becoming progressively more disillusioned and less religious as time goes on, it becomes harder and harder to push the divine mandate line. Eventually, people might just become dissatisfied. And we have inexorable proof of this. A proof of concept, if you might think, in the form of the duchies. The duchies also used to be an extension of the empire, especially if effectively until recently. They used to be a direct subsidiary or a vassal state of the empire, and then they fell apart because of revolution. Who's to say something similar
yes,
might not
I've heard
happen in
about
Europe?
that.
They brutally
executed
slaughtered.
it.
They brutally slaughtered every single person with any trace of divine blood in the country. Probably not what I would go for if I were to try and push for a revolution in the Eridine. But I'm not exactly one to tell them how to live their lives. I have my own
Yes,
country
I
to
do
deal
recall.
with. That's it.
I do recall hearing whispers of that massacre. I was surprised to hear if any of them survived.
Probably a few. I know more than they were all very well connected and very wealthy and had lots of very loyal servants. So I don't doubt that at least a few of them made it through the cracks onto a boat somewhere to sail off into the night far away. As it is, the reason that they've had the borders closed for so long is because there's been a few that have been unaccounted for. So who knows? We might see them
Oh, do we-
crop up in some places.
Out of curiosity, do we know who?
I mean, I'm sure that there are spies somewhere that might be able to tell you as much, but that kind of information is typically, how to say this, it is typically, what's the word?
Occupied?
It's typically confidential.
Confidential, there we go.
Classified, confidential, same thing. Point being, if they did know the names exactly, they probably wouldn't publish them for fear of driving those people deeper underground.
I see. Well, when you have an entire nation at your heels, I suppose it makes sense to go into hiding.
Yeah, I don't blame them. If my entire country turned around and wanted my head, I'd probably run for the hills too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kara will open his mouth to go say something along the lines of, "Oh, we have lots of runaways," but then he will remember that he had a stern talking to, and he won't.
Before Kari even says anything, Flick just kind of nudges him very, very
No.
quickly.
Correct. I remember.
Good, you're learning.
I see. Though, and I'll turn to the others, I wouldn't... How do I put this? I wouldn't be so bold as to expect the rest of you to stay. I intend to, just as I'm curious of the day and night cycle of what it would take to be a leader. But I suspect we'll be needing to move relatively soon.
More than likely by tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
I hope you had a fun time spectating that. Now I get to have a nice long talk with my cousin, and then after that, it's going to be afternoon is going to be primarily talks with dignitaries, and then my evening is going to be full of petitions from local businesses for funding. After that, we're going to be talking about a new installation of an art piece and a gallery that wants to be opened, and then I get about 5 hours of sleep, and then we start again with the briefing tomorrow morning. So yeah, why do you want to become king again?
Well, do you want the actual reason?
I could make an assumption about draconic instincts, but I'll let you answer instead.
Oh. When I was young, I had my innocence, and I had the expectation of strength, though I could not seize it. I had time, and I did not know it, and in truth, it was very easy for me to see myself as nothing more than an object for the aspirations of my father. And though I was told that there would be greatness in my future, when my draconic heritage did not arrive, I was cast as a slave just as my mother was. Very early on did I understand that many people were seen as disposable in the eyes of my people. And the horrors of dragons that I had come to know soon after made me realize that at first I longed for that power. Not to enslave, but to lord and to conquer when I was immature, when I first left my brood. And then I realized that that draconian way of thinking, that manipulation, that servitude under a forced leader that had no strength to lead himself, it was more than just that in dragons. It was everywhere. And the more I wandered, and the more that I came to understand my place in the world, I found that I didn't want that for myself ever again, but more importantly, I didn't want it for others. And I started chasing a dream. The dream of the old home of dragons themselves in the north, lost to time. And when I found chance that it may be real, well, it only furthered my ambition to make it so that I could form a place of all walks of life, for man and dragon and whomever else would arrive at my doorstep, that they would be welcomed and that they would be equal. And to that end, I've been pursuing that goal ever since. And with my own strength, I would do my best to defend those who would come under my banner. But I've discovered that I cannot do it alone. And thus, I have been expanding my view of the world, so that when the time may come that I will be king, that I will not be lost as my father was.
Well, from personal experience, to say that a country cannot be run off of fear, and off of serfdom and servitude, would be I mean, I just have to look at Flaminsk, and the way they run things, or Eridai, or even the theocracy, the Caspon theocracy up until recently, because they ran things for a good, say 200-300 years. So it works to a degree. Though nations like that tend to fall apart when their leader dies. Same thing with any nation or empire that's usually built off of the excellence of a singular leader. Because genetics is a hell of a lottery. And sometimes the successor, either there is no successor, or the successor leaves a lot to be desired. Dragons don't have that problem typically because they live a very long time. So they're able to run their empires for 1,000 years at a time before they pass away, and then, all that. Assuming they don't find some way to extend their lives. Thankfully, we've not had to deal with dragons for a very long time. Very happy about that, because they sound like a pain in the ass. But from my experience here running Morgus, being on the throne, being tasked with the stewardship of this nation, I kind of want to say you don't choose to be king. Then again, I've never founded a nation. But you don't really choose being a king. The position tends to choose you. And you help the people as much as they help you. And if you're not helping your people, and they're doing nothing but helping you, you're doing something wrong. If they're doing nothing but helping your people, but they're not helping you, that's another way. You're probably doing something wrong as well. I've not been in this job for very long, and honestly, I still think I'm a snot-nosed when it comes to it, but I still think you're starting to learn a very important lesson. That running a country, that's what it is. It's not just being a king. It's not just ruling over a camp full of people, because any bandit lord can claim that they're a regent of some patch of dirt. What makes a country, what makes a nation, what makes a kingdom is the people. It's always the people. It's a collection of various skills and outlooks on life and cultures and ways they make their food and the ways they weave their baskets and everything. How it all comes together, how it all stews in a pot and comes out as this weird, fucked up, delicious soup of some of the most bizarre things in the world. That's what a nation and a kingdom is. And take this soup allegory in a weird direction, the king just kind of stirs the pot every once in a while. I barely do anything around here besides listen, take notes, ask the right questions to the right people. And if there's somebody that can't answer the questions, I find one. I look for the answer somewhere else. Having the right people, people you can trust, people who you can rely on to get things done, is the single greatest thing I ever did. Being able to say, I don't know, I'll ask somebody who does. Finding that person, asking them that question, and if nobody can answer it, well, that means we've unlocked a gold mine. If you've got a lot of questions that nobody can answer, then you've got an idea of what to start looking at, and what questions to start asking, what research to do. We don't know why the sky is blue? Get our best astronomers to figure out why. Best mages, our best natural scientists. And those are the little building blocks that make up progress and improvement. So, and that's this point where he comes to a stop outside of a doorway and says, I can already tell you've got a very interesting group of people here you're all gathering together around one another. You all seem very different, and it's so different, one might even ask, why the hell are you all sticking together? But then, it's those differences that helps. It's what helps keep you all sticking together. Because I think you all have those things that you're experts in, those things where the rest of the group, they look at it and they go, I don't know. And then they come to you. They come to your friend with the mask. They come to the blonde-haired lady. Or to Vark, or to Flick, or to anybody. You all have something you bring to the table. You make your own little village. The village becomes a hamlet. The hamlet becomes a town becomes a city becomes a kingdom. So my best advice to you is keep collecting people you trust and people you can rely on to get the important things done.
If I may be so bold, I believe I already have collected one. At least a new one.
And who was that?
I will tell you what. I'm probably not going to be a part of any minister or cabinet member to you. But whenever you should manage to find your place, put down stakes, and find your home, Lorbus, I think, will be very happy to continue and set up amicable diplomatic relations with your new kingdom. If you ever have any advice you need from a more experienced king, I'll be very happy to bumble along and learn together with you. Because honestly, one of the best
We were on the same page.
One of the best things about being king is how much you learn. I am, despite being the one who supposedly wears a crown, I am humbled every single day by just how inquisitive my people are and just how much they know. So yeah, I think you've got a good amount of people that help keep you in check. You help keep them in check in your own special way. You keep them safe. I think together, whether it's making a kingdom or something else entirely, like rooting out this criminal organization, I think you're gonna do okay. Just listen to one another. Like, really listen. If someone says, hey, stop, I think you're wrong, don't immediately assume they're right, but do ask yourself, what if they are right? especially if it's somebody you supposedly trust. Yeah. Listen to each other.
Indeed.
Speaking of listening to people, I have a cousin to let talk at me for the next 2 hours. If you at some point you want to get, if you need something to eat or drink, don't feel afraid to stop one of the staff in the hallways. They'll probably be able to get you sorted out. There's honestly side rooms all over the place here you can take if you want to lunch break. Speaking of lunch breaks, why don't we take a quick 10-minute bio break and we'll do a little time
Yeah,
skip.
then we can go figure out what Hollow Hollow was doing.
Hollow Hollow
Yes.
and Mallory.
And
Hollow
Mallory, that's correct.
Mallory went to go speak to a minister.
The whole the one of the hotel rooms is just filled with nothing but papers and like everything.
Yep. Literally just buried in books on local flora and fauna. Yes.
And then
You know,
there's
I realized-
like a book on Karya's like bed, and it's just the one Hollow.
It's a good thing Mallory wasn't around for that whole talk about the theocracy, because that may have sent him into yet more fist-clenching anger.
Yeah.
Anyway, be right back, everybody. I'm going to go take a 10-minute bio break. All of you, if you want to get a drink or a snack, go feel free. We've got another hour-ish left of the session. All right, be right back.
Yeah, sounds good.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Make more.
Back in it. All right.
Make one of everyone. Make every single possible
Oh, shit.
combination.
No.
Do it. Do it now. Do it, Eriko.
So,
Hi, DM. If you wish to know what we're talking about, please peruse your eyes towards a simple path.
Yeah, we were.
Do one
Oh, wait,
with
there he is.
do one with non-talking Chaiko, putting a shoulder on talking Chaiko. Because
We need to
of
talk.
instead of we need to talk, it's we need to speak up.
We need to stop. Is what.
Yeah, no, now the running gag is because I explained how Karya already has appointed everybody a role in his mind of his kingdom.
You know, without
and then he was
consulting
listing
them or
them all.
anything.
No, he's not consulted them at all. He's just done it. I was like, yeah, you know, Hollow is the alchemist, and the royal alchemist, and then Vark is the royal archivist, and then Mallory is the minister of war, and Flick would be the minister of trade and commerce, and then Chaiko's already the royal advisor, and Siren can be religious council, but. And then there was talks where Mallory was like, "I'm gonna put a hand on your shoulder. We need to talk. we need to have a conversation." And then later, Flick was like, "Yeah, they're taking our territory, so I burned their ships down." And then Mallory, they puts a hand on Mallory's shoulder. Mallory, we need to talk.
They're coming.
They're
So-
coming. They're very mad.
I don't blame them. Anyway, so the right, so the session resumes. So we jump over to oh my god, there's Hollow who's swimming in a fucking. His entire bed at this point is covered in literature that he's diving through. He's been occupied with that for a good bit. Mallory, or in this case, Malady. You were speaking or wanted to consult with the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Yes.
Leaving the meeting hall, as the king said, disappearing into the small crowd is you recognize standing out among them is a length of long braided red hair, accentuated by a relatively petite and slim frame with what looks to be a functional but still fashionable green dress that's slowly, patiently making its way down the hall that I assume you catch up to.
Yes, I do.
How do you make yourself known?
So I put a hand on their. I'm kidding.
Turns
God
around
damn
and
it.
puts a knife in your chest.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. For all intents and
He's
purposes,
a
I'm joking.
Minister of Foreign Affairs, shotgun diplomacy. Yes, how do you make yourself known?
from my noble education, would I have known anything about the Lorbis structure and whether there was an elf who dealt with foreign affairs?
Thing is, the Caspon theocracy did have a sort of leading family that was kind of de facto in charge of the theocracy. Overall, though, the theocracy itself was pretty fragmented because you had the various dukes that ran their duchies. Your father being one of them. Typically, foreign ministers and diplomats tended to speak with the leading family, and then whenever a diplomatic meeting was called, it was usually each duke would gather at the Grand Duke's the Grand Duke's estate, where they would also host foreign dignitaries. You were never invited to these. So,
Right.
personally,
They hated my ass.
of course, yes, your father abhorred your existence to its very iota. You were a non-entity in Caspond politics. So personally, you would have never met, heard of, or seen hide or hair of any such individual. Through your education, what you would have learned, I would say roll knowledge nobility.
I will do my best. And that one. I have no idea who she is.
The redhead, the mention of a redheaded elf rings 0 bells for you. Your best approximation or your best guess, you don't know any redheaded elves. As far as you knew, you didn't even know elves involved themselves in politics in this part of the world. It's the only elves you know, you hear of, typically tend to be the ones in the Titan's Arm. So, hell, a suspicious part of your mind whispers in your ear that who this person is might even be some Titan's Arm spy planting herself within the cabinet of the King of Lorbis. Possibly
And
even
I would have
suspicious.
thought of that anyway.
Possibly even suspicious that this foreign minister you've never heard of is somehow has such a high-standing position in Lorbis. Suffice it to say, you're drawing a blank. So yeah, how do you make yourself known?
I would. Well, I will just walk a few paces faster than her, pass her, and then turn around.
Okay. Simple enough. As you come up alongside her, matching your pace, speed up a little bit, and then I suppose make yourself known a little bit that you wish to speak with her. Her features are she herself is petite, slim, doesn't really speak to what you know as being the typical features you've come to know as being related to the Titan's Arm. So maybe she's an elf of a different heritage. She seems not quite what you know or are familiar with. Still, she stops, seemingly a little bit caught off guard by your approach, but then says, "Oh yes, how can I help you?"
I would like to make a couple inquiries.
You are King Gayamo's friend, yes?
Yes, I suppose.
Also, Sully, if you could speak up a little bit, you're a bit quiet on my end.
Oh, sorry.
There you go. You're much louder. Yes, you have inquiries? I don't know how much I can help with that, but sure.
Well, I suppose it lays in your area of expertise as a foreign minister. Wait, is she the foreign minister?
Yes.
Oh, yes, as foreign minister. I'd like to make a couple inquiries on the current state of the now united duchies of Nisan.
That is. Most people do not tend to ask about that country. I wonder why you're inquiring about it, but it's a question asked in good faith, I can assume. So I'll answer in good faith. I will answer in good faith. The United Duchies of Naissance are united almost entirely only in name. They could barely even be called country at this point. The nation is fragmented, the soil is still fresh with blood, even though it has been so close to 10 years now. The nation is frankly in a very sorry state and does not seem to be recovering very quickly. This is not helped by the new introduction of strange, cruel firearms that the Vitoli make. The nation is so very young and so freshly grounded, and it was already beset on all sides by countries looking to take advantage of it before the borders even open. Spies galore. No law, no regulation. Everybody simply takes what they want, and until there's nothing left, and then now everybody is languishing. So many people are. Honestly, it's horrifying. There's barely leadership to speak of. Whatever might claim themselves to be military or guards or simply thugs. Gangs. We are to be more charitable. The country is in a sorry state. I would not say that the situation before, when it was still Caspond, was more desirable, but now everybody suffers there. It is a place of great sadness, and well, we try to extend. I've been pushing to try and extend a bit of aid, but they're naturally very distrustful of other countries and other powers. So they have no food, they have no medicine, they have nobody to defend them. It's tragic. Disease and starvation run rampant. Murder is commonplace. Theft is an everyday occurrence. And the ground is consistently soaked with blood. It is a tragic state of affairs. Almost equally lamentable is the state of many of its national landmarks. Much of the culture of the previous Caspond theocracy has been razed to the ground.
I suppose the first thing that the common people would try to erase from their rather tumultuous past would be anything that represented the nobility.
Naturally. Their manors, their castles, their libraries were monuments to their oppressors, and so had to be burnt to the ground and start anew. But in the process, they also erased decades,
Their history.
hundreds of years of accumulated knowledge, research, whether it's techniques on land cultivation, on records of trade deals, peace treaties and agreements, or treatises on creation of certain types of armaments or how to build a brick and mortar wall. It is now a country saddled with the greatest burden of all, ignorance. For in seeking to eliminate the traces of their past, they drove themselves back into the veritable Stone Age. And I fear, with so many dead and dying, especially those of the older generation, they will not even have the benefit of word of mouth and their elders to teach them the skills they need to survive and build themselves back up. They will be forced to rely either only on their own limited abilities, or more likely, the very insistent aid of outside powers. They will swiftly find themselves being a country with no heritage of their own. Once rich, budding theocracy will become the playground for other countries.
There's a certain sorry kind of irony to that.
Yes. Seeking to start anew, they pave the road for another country to wipe out, or other countries to wipe out all traces of what they once were and once had. As monstrous as the Caspon duchies were, the dukes, and the Grand Duke in particular, how they treated their people, I would argue that it would be better if they remembered that and moved on and lived on and developed beyond that. But instead, they're left with nothing. Soon to be paved over and built on top of. I dare say Naya more than likely will be the first one to try and sweep in, if Aradine does not. Aradine's hold on that land is now shaky, tenuous. No longer with the support of the noble houses, they cannot simply move in. They will fight, especially their leaders being Aesimars, they will face great resistance from the locals. So, ramshackle. Sorry, that resistance may end up being. They exhausted much of their manpower and blood and weaponry in the fight against the nobility. They don't even have a navy at this point.
That is very unfortunate.
So it is. I might ask,
Well-
why did you feel the need to ask about this? It's very clearly something of importance to you. And your comments suggest more than just a passing familiarity with it.
Oh, I suppose I have a few relatives in the United Duchies of this, in the now United Duchies. Since the borders are closed, I am unable to see them. So I was curious as to when, or rather, how the state of it is and when it will eventually happen. Not only that, I am fairly well versed in the political side of the former. I'm more used to saying Caspon theocracy, but it's a natural curiosity, if anything. I simply can't help it.
Shan't pry then. I'm sorry I can't offer more hope. As the image and the present day of the duchies is unfortunately quite bleak. I wish I could give you more pleasant news.
Well, there is another thing I'm curious about.
Indeed.
In a coup d'etat, there is usually it's something like a coup d'etat is a very organized, or at least somewhat organized, act
Hmm.
in order to break through the guards, defeat, systematically take down every single duke and the Grand Duke.
Mhm.
There has to be some sort of leader, or at least some sort of great grand actor in this entire scheme. Has there been anyone who might have possibly tried to lay claim on the United Duchies, but failed over the past few decades?
You're correct that revolutions like this don't just appear out of thin air. Often it's an inciting incident or inflammatory individual that tends to spark these things and then potentially lead them. So far, with how fragmentary the information coming out of the duchies has been, we do not know who exactly was leading it. Descriptions, sometimes titles, epithets, but never anything concrete, never a full name, and never anything pursuable. The leadership, you could call it that, of the new duchies is fragmentary at best. It is. Now, the different duchies were broken up. After the revolution, it was, from what I heard, chopped up among various individuals who considered themselves leaders. Some were more warlords, and others were simple gang leaders. Some had great lofty ideals, hoping to create their own little kingdom. Others simply wanted to exploit and do little better than their previous masters. So far, no ringleader has been identified. But you did not hear this from me. If indeed you have family in the duchies, and perhaps you would ever feel a reason to be dissatisfied that somebody manipulated the people of your country into a violent revolution that would weaken and imbalance it, I would most certainly understand if you were to grow angry with such individuals. So you did not hear this from me, but there is some implication that Naya was involved in sparking the revolution, supplying the revolutionaries with weaponry, with mages to break down fortifications, with tools and means and organization that would allow them to infiltrate and destroy the dukes with far less resistance than one might think or one would expect. It has been suggested, rumored, that the leadership of Naya has been hoping to urge the people of the theocracy into revolt because it would give them claim to new land in an already saturated or fully discovered continent, and access to very profitable maritime ports and favorable ocean routes. If there's anybody with the opportunity and the profit to gain from such a bloody revolution and easy territory, they might choose to try and move in on very soon. Well, Naya is in a very convenient position. Take that as you may.
upon hearing that, there are a few things that are going on in Mallory's mind right now. So first of all, he's been harboring a lot of anger over the past decade. A lot.
Understandable.
And finally, he's able to put a face on that anger.
At the very least, a country.
A country, a face. At least he knows that the political people are involved. And he is trying to maintain still a composed, inquisitive, ladylike appearance, but he some of his less than let's say less than I don't know words.
Take your time.
What was it?
So less than wholesome feelings, or
Less than wholesome feelings. Less than let's say his air of calm is kind of slipping.
Resentment? Yeah,
Yeah, his resentment is kind of
The-
seeping.
the mask is slipping a bit.
Yeah. He's
But-
trying to smile, but it's difficult.
Give me a bluff
His
check
lips
then.
Let's see, bluff.
We'll see how much the mask is slipping.
A 17.
Not your best.
Not by a long shot.
So you're trying to keep your smile up. And to most people, it would seem poised and even delicate. But the elf in front of you seems to be recognizing just how stiff your smile has gotten. How rigid your shoulders have gotten. And how your eyes don't match your smile. She's a veteran in politics, and she can recognize a forced, pleasant smile when she sees one. She goes through a little bit to confirm, at the very least, whatever suspicions she may have had. She says, "You would not be first of many to take umbrage with this suggested involvement that Naya might have had with the Caspon Theocracy's self-destruction. Sorry to say, at this point, we do not have any sort of concrete evidence, though it would not be outside of the realm of possibility and believability to say that any evidence of such is being barred from escaping the borders of the Theocracy or of the duchies. Indeed, this border blockade may even be seen as a two-pronged attempt to keep such things in, as any dissidents or whistleblowers might also be caught in the net of blocked borders. I would warn you to be very careful. Naya is not an independent nation that stood on its own for several hundred years for no reason. Naya formed when I was but a little girl, and I have watched it for a very long time from a blossoming young nation into one of the most powerful political maneuvers in the entire Quadranon. They are notorious for the backroom deals. And I will tell you a small secret here. As she draws in a little bit closer. And the one who so boldly said that he would hunt any spies in the room down. His master, Rose, Lydia. You may have noticed when he said her full name, because I remember her. When she crossed through Morbus to get to Rosaino, when she fled her family in Naya. She was the royal heir. She fled her home first to escape the animal savagery of the political sphere, eventually becoming a master mage in her own right in the pursuit of personal perfection. But it all started with a desperation of escaping a home environment which I would not wish on anybody. Because the contest for the throne of Naya is one of frightening natural selection, unnatural selection. Let it simply be said that a lot of backs get stabbed in Naya. To become regent there is to show ruthlessness, political savvy, and an incredible knack at keeping oneself alive and building a very strong network of trustworthy vassals around oneself. Because that is the only thing that will keep you alive in a family that firmly believes and lives by the motto that the only people with the right to rule are the ones who are able to take the throne. It is a savage country that wears a mask of civility. That ruthlessness extends to all their dealings with other countries. Be careful if you wrap yourself in that tangled web, because the moment you do, you will make yourself a target. The moment you make it yourself known that you were from the Caspond theocracy, that you know the atrocities they committed, that you might even be thinking of hunting them down for it, make sure you have an army at your back. Because the moment they know you exist, they will not stop hunting you, because you will be a threat to them and their way of life. Or at the very least, you will be an inconvenience for them. As she then, with one small hand, takes your hand in hers, places the other one atop it, and says, "It would be presumptuous of me to say to discard your anger, because I know that it comes from a place of genuine hurt and tragedy. So to say to discard it would be to cheapen that, dismiss your suffering, but temper it, sharpen it into a blade. If the time should come, and you manage to gather the courage and the allies, and the strength to strike back at Naya, repay them for the blood debt they have incurred upon your people, take that anger that you have tempered so well and drive it into their heart. And make sure that when you do so quickly, to strike true. Because you will probably never get another chance.
I thank you for sharing this with me. I'll be sure to keep what you say in mind.
One of the hands that's resting atop yours comes up to your cheek as she very gently caresses your face, It's kind of to try and it's almost as if it's a gentle gesture to kind of try and keep your eyes on hers. She says, "I see great hurt in your eyes. I see you carry many ghosts on your shoulders, in great and furious wrath. I shudder, and I pity anybody who may find themselves on the other end of that. Do not let it consume you. By the end of this, when you find yourself avenging your people, what if simply yourself, make sure when you do it you're able to then set down the blade, pick up where you left off. And if you should ever need somebody to speak to, know that you have a sympathetic ear in me. I am only ever a letter away."
And whom should I address this letter to? He's asking for a name.
You could simply address it to the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Kingdom of Morbus. That would be my official title that I've held for so long. And if you title it as something of diplomatic importance, it should be forwarded to me with minimal interception from the spy master. But whatever you label it, he will probably at least read it a little bit. You may refer to me as Jenny Redstein.
Jenny Redstein.
It was a name that the last king gave me. For my hair, you see. He was a very interesting individual. He's a bit superficial. So, hello, Borb. How you doing? Welcome in.
Hey, Borb.
She pats your cheek, just gently tracing her thumb over your cheekbone, and says, "Know that you have, if not an outspoken ally, at the very least, I have some connections within the duchies that I can keep you in contact with. And if you should eventually find yourself moving against Naya, I have no love for them. And neither does much of the Quadranon. They'll tolerate each other because they keep each other safe. Paradigm. With the way things are moving, we are hoping that that should not be a necessary thing. Though we have our own worries for if Aradine should collapse, how that would affect the relations between the four. We shall see. Still, I would not be doing my job if I did not know things, and I am offering you at the very least a sympathetic ear, somebody who you can ask questions if you need them. You know, this curiosity that you have shown so far.
Well, I look forward to the day where I can sate my curiosity. And at the same time say my name and show my face proudly in the day light.
She gives a gentle nod and says, "I hope so too. I hope there's a day where you are able to be your true self. No longer have to hide for fear of being pursued and persecuted. Now then, I unfortunately have quite a bit of correspondence to deal with. Many letters waiting for me. Unfortunate side effect of being the Minister of Foreign Affairs is that I have many many letters to answer.
Yes.
So I hope
Well,
you
I
don't-
won't keep you any longer.
Thank you. I wish you a good day, and I bid you adieu.
Adieu, Jenny Redstein.
She gives a curtsy and then continues down the hall. Do you have knowledge local?
Knowledge local. Let's see. Because I'm actually doubtful about that.
It's not.
Oh yes.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, Inquisitors do get that.
Oh no, I don't get that as a
Oh, no,
as a
right.
class.
Right. No, it's just. Did you put a rank in it?
Yeah, put a rank in it.
Okay, cool. Roll that for me.
And that one.
Okay. Neat. Thankfully, skills can't auto fail, but it's still a 4, so it's not great.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, no. Yeah. She says goodbye, continues down the road, continues down the hall, and leaves you to your own affairs. I'm actually gonna say that I'm gonna wrap things up a little here. The rest of the day progresses fairly smoothly. The king does eventually come out of his meeting with his cousin, looking a bit more haggard. His further dealings, as you guys shadow him, have him speaking to his ministers a lot, talking business, talking a lot of various things, talking with consultants from all over the place and from different like workshops and from different areas of the city, from different professions, talking about things like organizing a monument being built, organizing a new school and a new overhaul of the current education system, more funding for one of the local hospitals in the city, how they might shift around the budget to accommodate that, an artist looking for funding to start up his gallery. There's a lot of shuffling around budget and talking to people, getting ideas sorted out, and a lot of that. A lot of that up until it's the dead of night. And the entire time, the king himself is vivacious. He's alive. He's talking. He's talking fast. He's stuttering here every now and again. He's going through various different ideas. He's consulting his ministers, his advisor, everything. But sometimes seems to be barely keeping up with whatever's going on in the room, but still tries his best to keep on top of it. Till eventually, it's dark outside. Everybody's departed. The last audiences have finished. The last talks have finished. The end of day debriefing happens, with nowhere near as much drama as the briefing. And eventually, you're in the atrium. The king, his advisor, both chatting about something or another, as you'll come to a halt in the atrium, and the king faces you and says, "Well, I hope today was most enlightening to all of you. I'm gonna go try and get some sleep before tomorrow starts again. Starts all over again." And then the advisor speaks up and says, "And I have already informed your escort for tomorrow. They will be saddled up. They will have their own supplies. They will have their own horses. As a matter of fact, they will have their own cart that they will be riding along with you. That will be trailing alongside or trailing along behind your monster of a carriage. And they will do their best to keep pace with you and not get in your way, as well as to protect and keep you informed. I hope that your journey into Rosino is productive and has minimal complications. But that, if I'm going to be honest, is going to rest on all of you and how you handle that. Best of luck to you all. Good night. As the king nods, says, yes. Good fortune to all of you. Wind at your back, and I hope I see you all passing back through my capital relatively soon. And in one piece, all of you. As he's going to give you all a little wave goodbye and turn around. Cape or cloak fluttering a bit in the motion of turning around. The flower stuck to his lapel has even wilted a little bit by this point. And before it was a fresh daisy, is now wilted and turned a bit, like the stem has turned a bit brown and the flower, like the petals have turned a bit yellow. He pulls from his lapel and takes out his notebook on his hip and then presses it between the pages of the notebook and then slides it back into his holster. And walks away. And with you all then leaving the palace and heading back to your inn hotel where you'll be staying one more night, I'm going to wrap the session there.
All right.
Very
good.
narrative heavy session.
Very
Very
much
true.
so.
Mhm.
And my throat is sore.
I bet.
Yeah.
Understandable.
I do apologize that the players didn't get a lot of chance to speak as much as I would have liked to, but there were a lot of NPCs all happening in that day.
That is fair, yes.
I just like to imagine everyone political intrigue holo holo back in the hotel books.
Book.
Must read.
I must learn about
Yeah,
I must learn about every species of fern that lives here within Lorbus.
Yeah, everyone else at the castle getting involved in some interesting political intrigue, and then holo holo when it comes to biology and the regional
swallowtail
biology.
butterflies.
I don't need sleep. I need answers.
Yeah.
Holo holo knowing what how to fend on the.
Holo Holo is reading up on his Boy Scout handbook. Everybody else is currently busy getting wrapped up in fucking conspiracies. Yeah, fun times.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you everybody for dropping on by. Thank you players for playing. It's always much appreciated. Thanks for putting up with today. And oh wow, Frey, you are Mr. Roboto.
Dead.
Very garbly goobly. No, it is not. Also, Grim, thank you for the self-care. Much appreciated. Much needed.
These the subbies.
Yeah, Borb, what do you call it? I gotta learn how to do my half hitch by the time these assassins show up.
Oh no.
You are
Oh
still,
no,
still not better.
Frey is dead.
Frey is currently speaking through a modem.
Speak to me, Frey. Speak.
Uh-oh. I got like a syllable there.
We never saw him again. He's speaking in silver. He's speaking in syllables now. Oh god.
The
Frey
Mafia
is
got
being
him.
abducted by aliens.
The Mafia got him.
Yeah,
Damn it.
the mafia who
The
personally
gang.
I'm thinking personally I don't think it's the mafia anymore when it comes to those bandits. But I don't know. I could be wrong.
Who knows? You weren't there present for it, so you have no idea.
Oh, I have no idea. I'm just me thonking.
Mm-hmm. But yes. Thank you very, very much. I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up there. See you guys tomorrow. No, actually, no. Tomorrow is no Genesis.
No Genesis.
For
since,
now.
June will not be able to make it, and tentatively, it's supposed to be something approximating a finale for this for the arc. So, yeah.
After all these years.
So we want everybody.
Yeah, we're gonna need all hands on deck for that.
Frey wants everybody present there for that, so that will probably be next week. Keep an eye out potentially for just random game streams throughout the week. I might just do whatever. Besides that, I hope to see you guys later. Bye-bye.
Indeed. Bye.
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 Meanwhile,
Take
Frey is
care.
just slowly dying. He is under the water.
Frey is
Okay.
being dragged into the depths.
Into the abyss.
Should probably ask fucking Hollow's patron about that.
Hello?
Hey, Mom, what do you have to say about that?
He's back. He's alive.
My phone is broke. I should have clarified. There's an issue with my phone where it just cuts me from all service whatsoever. And so I could still hear all of you the entire time. And
Damn.
yeah, you guys just only heard me as a robot.
Unfortunately.
Meoing.
Yes. I made sure to fill people in on lack of session
Genesis,
tomorrow.
yeah.
Yes, and that's where I'm going to go ahead and mute and end the stream. Thank you guys very much for swinging by. To everybody who's sitting around and listening to us. Well, listening to me mostly this session. Jesus Christ. Bye, everybody. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
This is great.
Bye.
This is Quest the Session.